The January 10th, 2017 meeting of the Hendersonville Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Let's see, we do have a quorum. Do we have a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
From Alderman Skidmore, second from Alderman Hedberg. Do we have any questions or any issues or questions? Okay. Ah.
Love to do that.
How did we miss that?
It's not on there.
Is it?
No, it's not on there. It's
Okay.
not listed.
Gotcha. Okay, let's approve this and we'll go back. Acceptance of the agenda, all in favor? Aye. Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's please rise. Let's bow our heads, please. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us here tonight, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to do business like this and to give us the opportunity to live in a country that allows these possibilities, where we will soon see a new head of our country, as opposed to other countries that don't have these possibilities and don't have these opportunities for their residents to be heard and to have a say. And thank you so much for this day and for all the many blessings you provided us, and thank you for the people who protect us here and for the people who protect us abroad. And thank you for the people who brought us here, and thank you for the many opportunities ahead. And please continue to look after us, and especially those who we know in our hearts are sick or ill or in need, and help the people who help them as well. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Okay, presentations. I gotta get used to doing this.
Cassie and Katie have been
Our Cassie and Katie Venable here. Exceptional. Where's Cassie and Katie? Come on up here, please. I want to tell you all a little bit about Cassie and Katie Venable. December 22nd, we had a fire down on Rockland Road, and they happened to be nearby, and pretty amazing stuff what they did. Now, let me read this. This is a proclamation to Cassie and Katie Venable. As Hendersonville Outstanding Citizens, it's given in honor of their historic aid and assistance in helping rescue a family on Rockland Road on December 22nd, 2016, when they noticed that their home was on fire. Their selfless act of aid to those in need is a credit to their character and serves as evidence of their dedication to the philosophy of service to others, so often expected, but rarely acknowledged. The city of Hendersonville is proud to recognize Cassie Venable and Katie Venable. Thank you all so much. Katie. Can y'all tell us explain what happened?
Oh, Daddy wants a picture. Sorry. Okay, I'll tell the story because I really have nothing to do with it other than the fact that I was driving the car and was ready to administer first aid if needed. But we were driving down Rockland Road and saw that the Henderson's household was up in flames, and Cassie selflessly jumped out of a moving vehicle. And when she saw Mr. Henderson pulling his disabled wife out of the doorway, Cassie immediately jumped up and ripped the porch railing down and assisted removing her from the house until first responders were available. So it really is all Cassie. I was just the driver.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate being here today. Next on the agenda is a public hearing. This is a public hearing to hear comments on a request by REO Funding Solutions III, LLC, to approve a preliminary development plan for Mansker Farms located on the west side of Center Point Road, south of Allen Drive, Sumner County, property tax map 144, parcels 74, 74.01, 84, and 122. There may be some folks who signed up for the public comment. We only have 3 people signed up for the public hearing. If you would like to be moved from the citizens' comments to the public hearing, we can do that. But the first person we have for the public hearing is David Cate of Grove Lane South. Good.
Hello, I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight. Bear with me, I'm not used to talking to such a large crowd. I wanted to let each and everyone know essentially how much my wife and I are against the proposed development that's being considered tonight for the Mensker Farms subdivision. We've been in the sub for 6 years now. We love it there as it is. And we're looking forward to the possibility, we're not looking forward to the possibility of someone coming in and changing the entire feel of the sub with smaller houses, the same amount of amenities, and no more usable green space. We've already contacted a realtor and are prepared to move, not just out of the sub, but out of Hendersonville completely. I know that you want to do what's best for the town, but it's my understanding that a lot of people here will leave if this plan is approved. We're nearing retirement, and I look forward to spending our golden years here, and we ask that you please don't take this away from us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cate. Joy Cate. Okay, thank you, Ms. Cate. Chad Rue on Trail Ridge Drive. Is this mine? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I didn't plan to speak, but when I saw many names on the list, I decided that I would pipe up and say something. So I don't have anything prepared, so just be patient with me. I lived in Mensker Farms since April of this year, so I've been there a very short time. My in-laws live across the street on Center Point Road, right across from the subdivision. And so do both my grandparents and my aunt and uncle, and another aunt and uncle, and another aunt and uncle. So I've been right by that area quite a bit. In fact, I've worked for them in their business that's located on their property when the stuff was still being constructed, and I heard the blast up at their shop across the street. Hear the ground, the noise in the ground from those blasts. So first I want to say is I understand people can do business, and I respect that, and I respect the company that wants to do business and build, and they have that right. And I respect everyone here to have the time to let me talk. So with saying all that, when I guess I could just tell a story. I moved in, I heard stuff, and you need information to make a good decision about making determination of what's going on. I didn't know there was always a master plan in place. So at first I was like, I'm dead set against this. I don't want it. But then I heard there's always been a master plan. And I said, okay, well, if there's always been one, it's their attention, so it's not that bad of a thing. But then as you gather more information, you start getting a little concerned that as the first builder walked away, 2 other builders, I think, bought the property. Now we have a third builder. From what I understand, what I heard is that the land is not really great to work on. There's going to be a lot of blasting required, and that could damage our home, our property and our homes if there's a lot of blasting, especially if it's for an extended long period of time. I don't want to undergo that. Also, the fact that the possibility of devaluing our home properties, if they build smaller units that are not in like kind or better than what's currently there. The fact that they're not going to build any additional amenities. If they're going to add or increase the population by 33%, from what I understand, there's about 700 units there now. If they're going to add another 300 units and not add any amenities on, and I'm probably going to end up paying the same amount for my home owners association. So I'm even getting less value by paying the same price. I don't know what will happen in the future. And then the amount of traffic that may come through there, like he said, the lack of greenery, it will just change the nature of the neighborhood. And, moving in there, I didn't know all that. I wasn't told that by my real estate agent, and I don't hold that against her. But when my wife found out after we've been there for 2 months about this, it's like I would have wished that I would have known about this, because I probably wouldn't have moved into the neighborhood if I knew that was coming. So with that all being said, I'm opposed to the changes. But like I said, if there's a master plan that's been in place, and there wasn't a lot of blasting required, and there was extra amenities that were provided, if the houses were built in like and kind, and everything was fair for both parties, then I wouldn't stand against it. Because, I understand people have to do business. But right now, the way everything is with the blasting and the rock, and I think it's topology was the word to use, or topography, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem like it's good for the people and the citizens that live there. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Rue. We've got one more item before we get to citizens' comments. That item honestly will probably take about 2 minutes. If there's people who signed up for citizens' comments that would like to speak now, I'll give you that option, or if you're okay waiting for a couple minutes, we'll get to that. Yeah. Good. Alderman Woodcock.
I've been on that side of the table before, and it may be an appropriate time to let our heroes know that they and their family can exit without, now would be a good time.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Thank you all. Our next item on the agenda is to hear, the approval of December 13, 2016 meeting minutes. Do we have a motion for that? Any additions or changes? All those in favor of accepting the meeting minutes from December 13th, say aye, please. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next on the agenda is citizens' comments. These are limited to 5 minutes, and we have some other rules that are available. Hopefully you've noticed those rules. And the first on the list is Mona Wilbanks of Centerpoint Court.
I hope we're speaking in the right spot because we're speaking to the resolution for the second passage.
You can speak to anything. Well,
Okay, great.
we'll
All right,
leave it
well,
at
my
that.
name
Okay.
is Mona Wilbanks. I live at 101 Centerpoint Court. I was one of the original homesteaders in Mansker Farm, so I've been there over 20 years. I volunteered in the community from the get-go. I've sat on every advisory board when the previous developer had control of our homeowners association, and had the honor in serving as president for the first 3 years when the homeowners took over the homeowners association. Still volunteer my time whenever asked and however I can. I want to speak contrary to some of the previous comments made by our aldermen. I think the residents of Mansker Farms have a pretty clear understanding that we knew Mansker Farms would be built out eventually. It was inevitable. The land can't sit there. What we thought, and when we all bought in, was that the build-out would be the same like, kind, size, value that exists. That is not what we're seeing with the proposed changes. I think we can all agree traffic, blasting, schools, these issues are going to be issues whether the plan that's in place now stays or whether the new one is approved. What I would like to address is a couple of issues, and I'm going to use, for lack of a better term, selling points that this present developer seems to make in pushing this new plan, and hopefully maybe can let you see that there's maybe more to it than what is being said. The first thing is the decrease in the density, and this seems to be something that excites everybody to no end. But I think if you have any familiarity with the topography of Mansker Farms, you know it's a very unforgiving terrain. So the very thought that as many homes that are presently slated in the plan would ever be developed is really a pipe dream. It would never happen. If you need some kind of clarification in that, I would ask that you take the present plan. If you have the colored one, that's great. And you take the proposed plan and you compare those two and look at the increase in the green space. I think that tells a story in and of itself. If that land could be developed, it would have been developed by the present developer or the one incoming. It says to me that it's just not financially feasible. The downside to the HOA is with the increase of that green space comes an increased space or increased cost to us. By the documents, we have to take care of the maintenance and the upkeep. We will have the an exposure to the liability in owning that additional land. And we also, just the simple thing, and have to pay the taxes. With the increase of the space comes the increase of our exposure, which probably will translate to an increase in our monthly fees. And not only the increase, but the increase will probably be more than what might be thought just because of the increase of that space. The second thing I'd like to address, and that is the commercial area. I think Mr. Frost and Mr. Skidmore, myself, and a couple others were the only ones that were here 20 years ago when this was first brought in front of you all. And for those of you who don't know, the commercial area was actually initially proposed on Center Point Road on the frontage. We fought against that very hard. We didn't want to destroy our pristine entrance. We felt like as homeowners, if we could get it put on the inside, the likelihood of it being developed would be nil to none. Actually, that plot where it is platted is some of the most unforgiving terrain within Mansker Farms itself. Felt like it was highly unlikely that that would happen, and so it would protect us. So when this developer stands up here and says stuff like he's going to give us more green space, I can assure you it's not an act of okay, they're filling in words for me. And he's going to take out the commercial area. It's not for our benefit. It's just not financially feasible that these two areas be developed. Last, I'm going to switch gears very quickly, and I noticed that there was some comments in the last meeting about a survey that had been conducted by our management company. Our HOA president, Lori Hickman, tried to explain to you that that survey was tainted from the get-go, from beginning to end. The results were tainted. Notice that some of the aldermen, for lack of a better term, jumped on the results of that survey like a duck on a June bug. We want it to be made very clear to you that that was not a reality. I know some of the aldermen have said they're going to vote with the majority, but I'm going to ask the rhetorical question, how do you know what the majority is? I'm hoping that we're having some homeowners that are going to come up behind me that are going to make a clarification on that and maybe give you some better insight as to how the present homeowners feel about this. I thank you for your time, your consideration, and I hope that you respect the fact that we are just trying to protect what we have invested in this, our homes, our neighbors, our friends, and it's what we love, Mansker Farms. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Spencer.
Good afternoon. Good evening. This is 2 weeks in a row I've come to Boma to speak. In the last meeting, I said I hate coming here to talk to you all, which I do. But then after I finished the dishes last night, my wife was reading something on Facebook about Boma considering a new law concerning the overwhelming problem with grass clippings and leaves. I thought, oh Lord, here we go again. Smart men come together, have a meeting, and they come up with these great ideas to make my life better. Happens all over this country in boards and committees. It's one of the reasons I hate meetings. Nothing gets accomplished and lots of time gets wasted on bad ideas. And board, this is a bad idea. First, we already have city ordinance on littering. Second, who is going to enforce this law? Could it even stand scrutiny in the Supreme Court of Tennessee? It sure wouldn't stand up in the Supreme Court of the United States after Trump appoints some good constitutional justices. Because, folks, this idea is not conservative or constitutional. Third, all this will do is pit neighbor against neighbors. And fourth, this law will turn into 10 more laws. For example, as many of you know, I just built a house. I was determined to have a great plan in place concerning the dreaded leaves. I was not going to plant one single tree and removed all existing trees during construction. I even went to the extreme case of going to my next door neighbor asking if he would allow me to pay for some of his trees to be removed. He wasn't too keen on that idea, and it was his right to say no. They were his trees. So what do you think happened this year? I had my brilliant plan in place, having no trees. Do you think my yard was leaf-free? Yeah, you guessed right. I have raked up 10 times this year so far and spent over 10 hours bagging it. Now, why on earth should I have leaves? I tell myself, I don't have any trees. Each hour I spend out there, I wanted to send a bill to my neighbor for cleaning up his leaves that blew into my yard. But each time I got angry, I heard that still small voice speaking to me, that voice telling me to grow up and go pick up the darn leaves. And that voice would continue. You live in America, the land of the free. You're healthy and able. Go pick up the leaves and shut up. I could have made you born in Mongolia. No offense to Mongolians. And that's what we do as neighbors. We are supposed to help each other, not call the yard police because some grass clippings are in the street. God is a mighty God. The wind bloweth where it pleaseth. Tomorrow, the grass will be gone. Or better yet, if it bothers you so much, go pick it up yourself. Or maybe if it bothers you so much, go introduce yourself to your neighbor and have a conversation. You'll be surprised at what happens. While we are on the subjects of leaves and grass, I have 5 large trees in my backyard that is blocking my view of the beautiful lake. I can't touch these trees because they are core property. But these darn trees in the spring fill my pool with pollen, and then in the fall dump massive piles of leaves in my pool and my deck, my yard, my gutters. You think you people can make a law to stop these leaves from falling in my yard? Or better yet, maybe make a law requiring the Army Corps of Engineers to allow me to cut these trees down or pay to have the leaves removed from my pool, gutters, and yards. While you're at making new laws based upon personal experience and emotions, how about consider some new laws that are bothersome to me? I have a neighbor who has an extremely loud motorcycle. Since motorcycles are loud, dangerous, and not necessary, maybe we should ban motorcycles in Hendersonville. Or I see way too many Alabama paraphernalia. Maybe we should make a law outlining crimson tide clothing. Or 3, my favorite, maybe we can make a law that makes the sponsor of legislation responsible for cities' court costs if the law is found unconstitutional. I kind of like that law. You get the point. Your job is not to burden us with unwanted laws. Your job is to preserve our liberties. Maybe that still small voice will be talking with some of you, because this ordinance will not make America great again. Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick Parker.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Parker. I live at 110 Lake Ridge Drive in Hendersonville, and I too am in part of in the Mansker Farm subdivision. And what I'm here to speak about, honestly, don't know how to follow the speech that preceded me, but I'll give it a try. But I'm rising in support of the proposed change in Mansker Farms. I've lived in the subdivision since 1999 for quite some time. However, upon review of the plan, I simply want to come before you and offer a voice, a citizen voice in support. Some of you may know I am an attorney by trade. I do both planning for developers. I do not represent this developer in any capacity whatsoever. I also do work for homeowners associations, so I do understand the balance between them both. And I do understand the problems and the history that Mansker Farms has historically faced, being there as long as we have, and being part of some of the original builders that were in Mansker Farms as well. However, I do believe that this is a balanced approach to continued growth in Mansker Farms, and the subdivision is needing to achieve final completion. So I'll keep my comments brief. I want to express my appreciation for all of you and the job and the duties that you carry and the weight of all the citizens of Hendersonville. So I wanted to express my appreciation there for everything that everyone on this board does and the tough decisions that y'all have to make each time you come and meet. So thank you. That's all I have.
Patrick, thank you. Ken Faust.
I'm Ken Faust. I live at 120 Stone Hollow Way, which is in Mansker Farms. Right now you are getting copies of a petition which was circulated this last weekend. There are 250 homes represented on there from people in Mansker Farms. Every one of them, it says quite simply, would like to keep their current zoning in place. I'd like to tell you what the importance is of a petition for those of you who have any questions. Everybody got one? Okay. We do have, incidentally, the originals, if anybody needs to see the originals. When the Founding Fathers framed the Constitution, they added a Bill of Rights, which includes our most treasured freedoms. The First Amendment guarantees us the right to speak our minds, to assemble peacefully, to worship as we please, and to publish what we want. And finally, it guarantees us the right to petition the government. This last point is often forgotten, but those wise and worthy men understood that a petition provided them with the best opportunity to learn how the people truly felt, not just the noisiest ones or those with the best political connections. A petition speaks for itself, and it's tough to argue with. Your job as leaders of this city is to do your best to give us what we want and to protect us from the things we don't want. We may not always give you clear messages. Indeed, often we don't make a sound. Generally, that's a good thing. It means we don't have any major complaints. But when we do tell you by way of a petition that something is a problem, it is a problem, and for a lot of people. When we tell you how we feel in a petition, you can't pretend you don't know what we want, and you can't pretend it's not important, nor do you have our permission to ignore it. You have to act, and if you're going to do the job you're elected to do, you have to vote as we would. To pretend you know what is best for us better than we do ourselves is at best unbelievably conceited, especially when you realize how much closer to an issue we are than you can ever be, and that we've spent far more time analyzing it than you have. At worst, it indicates there are corrupt politicians among you who believe in serving their own interests rather than those of the people. I would remind the egotists that no one voted for you to help you get where you want to go. We elected you to help us get where we want to go. As to any corrupt members on this board, well, I'm sure one day Almighty God will explain to you why abusing your fellow man is an unholy thing far better than I ever could. The message of our petition could not be simpler. We want to keep our zoning in Mansker Farms exactly as it is, period. If the developer is unhappy with it, whose fault is that? He should have known what it was from the beginning. Furthermore, if he'd done even a little research, he'd know about the previous rezoning attempts and how strongly the people have opposed them. Why didn't he wait to see if the land could get rezoned before he bought it? Wouldn't that have been the smarter thing to do? We didn't tell him to buy the land, and neither did you. We've done our best to explain to him not only what the problems are and how bad they'll get, but why his solutions don't stand up to reason. We understand he's put himself in the position of a salesman with a product no one wants, but we're not going to sacrifice everything we and our loved ones have built to bail him out. We shouldn't have to, and you shouldn't ask us to. Think of it this way. If I buy a car and I don't like the color, do I make my neighbor repaint it? Do I steal his? No, I take responsibility for my choice and admit I goofed. That's what adults do. I was one of the people who circulated the petition, and I can tell you that while walking up and down the hills in frigid weather, it was miserable work. Getting signatures, however, from the homeowners was a joy. We never had to beg. The great majority wanted to sign it. Time and again, they thanked us for the chance to tell you how they feel. Based on my results and those of everyone else involved in the petition drive, I sincerely believe the homeowners prefer keeping the current plan over adopting the new one by a ratio of 10-1. As the survey monkey, at least a half a dozen people I spoke to knew how easy it was to tamper with the results reported there, and no one trusted it. I imagine the developer has found a few people to speak for his plan, but they aren't the majority. What will happen to Mansker Farms in the future? Under the new plan, 5 years of blasting near existing homes will damage hundreds of them, some severely. TV stations will broadcast reports on the damage, and the internet will carry those stories for years, embarrassing the city and hampering our ability to attract new employers. Area homes will be put up for sale. 2 mountaintops will be blown to bits. With the trees gone, the soil will quickly wash away, leaving nothing but jagged rock behind. The developer will discover, as previous developers have, that the rock here is far harder to break than he hoped, leading to delays for him. And
30 seconds, Mr. Faust. Go ahead.
Okay, fine. Let's see, the homes will never be built, so the city won't get the tax revenues it hoped for. I would say, finally, one other thing. We have discovered a number of cases where the survey monkey was definitely tampered with. If you want to vote the way the people did, and you said you wanted to do that, you know how to vote.
Thank you. Lori Hickman.
My name is Lori Hickman. I've been here a couple times now. I'm part of the HOA board. What we want is the best thing for Mansker Farms. And what is the best thing for Mansker Farms? I think the people have had a voice and spoken and said what they have wanted. I think some issues that have come to my attention is the traffic. The traffic is crazy, and even tonight getting here, everybody's dumping off the bypass and going on Center Point. I know we're getting some extra money to help with that, but I think it goes above and beyond. And I think that the fees that collected are not going to help with a turn lane are fine, but that's not addressing our issue. talking to a realtor the other day, there's 90 people a day moving to Nashville. Probably figure 10 of those moving to Hendersonville out of the 90. So it's just going to keep compiling, in Hendersonville cannot handle that, in Mansker Farms and Centerpoint cannot handle that. We have got to do something about the infrastructure, and preferably before we add 600 more cars to Centerpoint Road into Nashville. What's best for the residents of Mansker Farms is to keep the integrity of an established neighborhood. We bought in a single-family home to have a single-family home to have single-family residents. That seems to be the voice of what everyone is saying, is that is why we moved there. We moved there so kids could ride their bikes and have places to go and have yards, and they wanted a single-family kind of neighborhood. The concern that they're doing a 48-foot lot and putting a 1,650 square foot house on a 48-foot lot seems a little, the math just kind of doesn't seem to work out correctly that way. The average house in Mansker Farms, I think, is 2,700 square feet. I know there's some smaller, there's some bigger, but that's kind of the average of that. The previous developer, we have had lots of problems with for the past 20 years. We have a lot of drainage issues that they did not correct. We had roads that weren't completed until a couple years ago for pennies on the dollar. The residents of Mansker Farms do not have a good faith in developers and a good faith in people looking out for their best interest, and rightfully so. They have had to fight and claw and had unfinished roads that they've had to deal with for 20 years. So I think when they're speaking up, they're fed up and their voices are being heard. It's the biggest purchase that most of us have made is your home, and I think that's what they're looking out for. You look at 250 people that have signed their name to something, and they've stood up. Of 700, take out 100 of those that are renters of Mansker Farms as well. So you have 600, you have 250 in a weekend. I think that kind of is telling you what their feelings is about this. I'm not saying it's everyone, I'm definitely not, but I'm definitely saying that that is the majority and how they're feeling on that. So thank you for your consideration in doing what's best for the residents of Mansker Farms.
Lori, thank you. Barb Griffith.
Good evening. My name is Barb Griffith. My husband Kevin and I and our 2 children reside at 169 Grove Lane South in Mansker Farms. Both of us strongly agree that the proposed rezoning by the developer should be rejected. When we purchased our home in Mansker Farms, we were aware of the current plan. We do not appreciate a developer now coming in and wanting to rezone our neighborhood for his building advantage. Let me stress again, we are against the proposed rezoning. I decided to get out just a couple days ago when it was freezing cold. I decided, instead of looking at this survey that had all of its problems that was done online, to get out and actually meet my neighbors that I haven't met before, and to walk the loop. If you're familiar with Grove Lane, or Grove Lane South, it's a loop. So I just decided to get out in the freezing cold and get some new miles on my new Fitbit, and it was good for me. And so I walked door to door, and I want you to know that I ran out of time and sunshine, and I walked Grove Lane, knocked on quite a few doors of the people who were home, and I found out that almost everyone was very happy with the current development plan, or if they supported, let's see, I'm sorry, I've lost my place. Oh, of the 36 residences, I was able to get 36 people to answer their doors, okay? And the 36 people who came to their door, 35 of them signed. One neighbor, who had a wonderful long talk with me, very friendly, was, in her words, on the fence. No one told me, and they all knew about it, no one said they were in favor of the rezoning. I think that speaks volumes. And I want you to know, not only did I walk Grove Lane, the houses I could hit, I also went to Oak Court, I went to Villa Way, I went to East Trail Ridge, I went to Sleepy Hollow. I ran out of time because the neighbors wanted to talk to me so much about this because they're so passionate against this rezoning. Please believe me. Please listen to the signature, 250 signatures. Listen to the voices of those citizens, the ones that actually voted to put our alderman on this board right here. And actually, I want to mention that I talked to my 2 aldermen. I appealed to them and told them my concerns. Both of you ladies, I think very highly of you. You know that I respect you. Love you both. They both promised, well, they both said that they have a commitment and an obligation to listen to the majority of the citizens, to listen to the majority of the voices. You told me that. You both did. Arlene's shaking her head. You both know that. I pray that the rest of you will also listen to the majority of the voices that you are hearing through these signatures and for the voices that you're hearing here today. In fact, I'd like for everyone to stand up if you're against the rezoning. Those of you who are against the rezoning. Not everybody wants to speak because they don't feel comfortable speaking. So I want them to speak by standing up and showing you. Okay? I think that speaks volumes. We are happy, once again, with the current development plan, the only approved plan. There was a lot of confusion early on by telling people, well, there's this plan, then there's this plan, then there's this plan. There's only one plan. The only plan is the one that's been approved a long time ago. We are happy with it, aren't we? Yes. We're happy with it. We don't want it rezoned. We don't want it changed. And I hope and pray that you will listen to the people. Thank you very much. And congratulations, Mayor, on being
Barb, thank you twice. The next name is illegible. Somebody on Wyndham Circle.
Oh, that must be me. I didn't know. I thought that was a sign-in sheet.
You're fine.
I must have not been home.
Yeah, if you want to speak, come on up here.
I was not planning on speaking.
You certainly don't have to if you don't want to, but
Oh, I do.
you have the opportunity. Yeah, give us your name and address, though. It's tough.
Lorraine Puckett, 111 Wyndham Circle. And as I said, I was not planning on speaking tonight, but I agree with all the people who are saying when you buy a home, that's one of the largest purchases that you make. And you don't expect that a couple years down the road that the rezoning is going to change and homes will be built not in the same manner of the homes in the neighborhood. It's consistent to keep everything the way that you wish that it would be. My name is not on the signature sheet because I must have not been home. So please think about all the people who were not home when the signature sheet came around. I'm against the rezoning. What are you planning on, if it goes through, are you planning on widening Center Point Road? It's a mess.
Thank you. Next on the list, I believe, is Janice Roberts.
I signed that.
Okay, quite understandable. Charlene Faust, I'm pretty sure you signed up to speak.
Good evening. My name is Charlene Faust, and I live at 120 Stone Hollow Way. And once again, we're up here in front of you speaking about Massacre Farm. We've met many times with the developer, been up here. And I've done a lot of research and put together something that Ken's passing out to you. What I've done is gone out to the tax assessor's website. And I've given this to one of our aldermen, but a lot of work that I put a database together. I downloaded our homes and looked at square footage. And it basically comes out into a pretty good bell curve. And I hope all of y'all understand bell curves, but if we need to talk about it, we can. But basically, I could only find 709 homes, but we have really 710, so the tax assessor's missing one home out there. But that's the tax assessor's problem, not mine. Anyways, but really what this basically shows you is the number of homes and by square footages out there. And on average in Massacre Farms, the square footage is 2737. And this is really where, personally, I think all of us in Massacre Farms should have a huge problem with the new plan based on the plan starting at a minimum square foot of 1350. You know, we have invested our nest egg, and at 1,350 square foot minimum, that's less than half our current average. You know, I can, talk about lots of things here tonight, and one of them I'm going to hit on is we had a meeting out at our clubhouse. I believe it was the second meeting the developer had with our homeowners, and this developer said that he was going to build homes and his homes were going to be better and a better quality than our current homes. And I found it quite rude of him and quite false, because I said, there's many, many nice homes in our neighborhood and many nice homes in our neighborhood. If you take, a calculator and you take what the cost of some of those homes were at the time we bought our homes 20 years ago, and what we paid 20 years ago, and what they would cost to build today, it's significantly more than the price points he's talking about building. So, just for an example, some of us that paid well over $200,000 20 years ago, you take inflation index, which is, cost of dollars dropped 53%, a $225,000, $236,000 home would be in the neighborhood of $336,000 today. And he's telling us that our homes are not comparable to his homes today. I'm sorry, Mr. Developer, you have a misunderstanding of the values of homes. You can't compare a new home to an existing home. You just can't compare apples and oranges. It just isn't going to happen. You have to adjust for inflation. An existing home is not going to sell for the price of a new home, but our homes are a good quality home and they are a good value, and it is our nest egg. Secondly, I do find it interesting, when the neighbors really did speak out this weekend. The petition that was circulated, and you guys have a copy of it, there are 250 names on that petition, and those are owner-occupied homes. There are some homeowners that 2 people in the home, we did not count that.
30 seconds, Ms. Faust.
That's fine, and there are no rentals. We took those out. It is 250 homes. I encourage you to vote with those and encourage you to understand that the homeowners in Mansker Farms have spoken. We want to live with our existing zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Kyle Waters.
Hi, I'm Kyle Waters. My wife and I both live at 102 Chadwick Court. We just moved down here 13 months ago, and if we had known this could even possibly go through, there's no question we would even have moved to Mansker Farms. I moved down here after I worked over for 22 years as a real estate assessor in the state of Wisconsin before I moved down here. We did over 72 communities throughout the state. I was the personal assessor for over 15 of those communities. I can't tell you how many neighborhoods larger than this that I worked for that were established communities. They decided to put even a third of the newly proposed homes in that were smaller in quality, inferior in quality, smaller in square footage. I can tell you without a doubt, and I don't know if people realize this, let alone the blasting, let alone the traffic, let alone the schools, I can guarantee you by what I've seen time and time again, you can expect your homes to depreciate at least 20 to 30% with these smaller homes coming in. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Mr. Waters. Joseph Taylor.
I'm Joseph Taylor. I live at 164 Fieldcrest Circle, and our family has enjoyed being a part of the Mansker Farms community for 6.5 years, and we love it there. And we hope to continue to be there for many years to come. I think from my perspective, as I looked over this, and of course I had a chance to share the last time we came for first reading, is that I believe that regardless of the plan that the board considers tonight, keeping it the original plan or the new plan, regardless of the plan, there's traffic. Regardless of the plan, there's an impact on our schools. With the revised plan, there's less of an impact on traffic. With the revised plan, there's less of an impact on our schools. Our planning commission, along with our planning department, has worked with the developer to consider the standards and the quality that will be required in this neighborhood, along with the square footage. And I'm confident that this board, with those departments involved, will make sure that the quality that we expect in Mansker Farms will be maintained. I appreciate the ability of our neighbors to communicate their wishes. And by the way, we were home all weekend. No one came to my door with a petition. I didn't know about a petition until tonight. My wife still doesn't know about a petition because she's not here tonight to hear about that. None of my neighbors know about a petition in my community, in my area, my cul-de-sac around the circle, at least to my knowledge. And so, so I think that bears consideration as well. I think there's no perfect plan, ultimately. But I do think, operating from a position of integrity and character, we don't move forward with an idea that we're going to put something in place that will be detrimental and hope that a developer just can't do it. I think we put pieces in place that allow smart development to take place in our city, and don't do development that isn't smart for our city. Less traffic, less impact on schools, makes the best out of a situation that none of us really had thought would come about, but could serve our community well. And I appreciate your time, and thank you for all you've done for our community.
Mr. Taylor, thank you. One more name on here, Liz Sisler. Liz, did you? Liz, can you give us your address when you get up there, please? Thank you.
Yes, hello, my name is Elizabeth Sisler. Excuse me, my printer didn't want to work for me today, so I'm looking at these very small print here. I live at 125 Trail Ridge Way. First of all, I'd like to remind the board that this was sent on from the Planning Commission with no recommendation for either plan. Since the original plan was approved, we have had 20 years of rapid growth in this city, and that does not have the infrastructure to support it now, let alone with any more growth. So this will directly affect the already overcrowded schools, the roads, and even the animal population. The majority of the houses on the new plan include houses that are 1,350 square feet on 48-foot lots. That means they're going to be about 10 feet apart. And as Kyle Waters said, that will drastically reduce our home values. I know my husband and I didn't work hard to have that happen. And it's definitely not keeping with the aesthetics of what we bought into when we bought here 10 years ago in Mansker Farms. The average size home is, again, 2,737 square feet, and the smallest lot is 60 feet. I personally walked the neighborhood yesterday, and on a Monday afternoon, nobody's home. But I ended up speaking to 75 people, not one opposed to the old plan. Everybody wanted the old plan. I talked to several people who actually liked the old plan because they liked the commercial idea. Several people said, we bought here knowing that there was going to be a commercial area. Somebody last night was watching the game, and she said, I thought maybe I could go up and get a six-pack and watch the game, or maybe some bread and milk. So there are several people who like the idea, or maybe a daycare right here on our property. The developer will tell you that this is geared towards, that the smaller homes closer together are geared more towards older, retired individuals. That's not a guarantee. He said because, not as many will go to the schools and overcrowd the schools. That's not a guarantee. Most first-time home buyers buy smaller homes. Our first home was 1,200 square foot brick ranch. Most first-time home buyers have new kids, and those kids go to school. Schools are already overcrowded. We know they're starting to spill into other schools and other districts, so this will affect other wards, not just Ward 3. The developer will tell you that these smaller homes are geared towards, again, retirees. And retirees, they're just home retired. They don't get out. They're old. But studies show that retirees are very active. And they move south often for the warmth, so you can be more active. They're on the roads just as much or more. And we know that that's going to put close to 1,000 more cars on our small subdivision streets, with no new entrances or exits proposed. The developer has said he's going to put in $500,000 to make some turn lanes, and that's all we're going to get with that $500,000. We're going to get some turn lanes. When we know the problem isn't the turn lanes, it's the roads. Hunts Lane, Mansker Farms, Caldwell, 386 from Center Point all the way over to Saundersville Road, and we know the mess at Saundersville Road. And we know that that's got to be first on the list to be fixed, because we know that the Deputy Commissioner of TDOT has already talked about pulling funding for other projects if that doesn't get fixed. Let's see, we know that the 5-year plan for the Hendersonville Planning Commission does not include fixing any of our roads anytime soon. At what point do we just say no? The developer will tell you that he has worked with the people of Mansker Farms regarding amenities. I can tell you, I talked to 75 people yesterday and a few on Saturday. Again, many wanted to talk and talk and talk. They're so excited. Where do I sign? How quickly can I sign? But I've heard complaint after complaint after complaint that there was a talk of a new pool, walking trails, butterfly gardens, weight room, lap pool, tennis courts, basketball courts. Oh, maybe we can just enlarge the old pool. Maybe we'll just do that. But
Well,
we
it's
know
30 seconds.
that can't be done. There are underwater springs. In the end, we have nothing. So we're going to try to cram close to 1,000 more people into our 2 little pools that are already overcrowded. We know that the monkey survey was skewed. We know that this pool right here, we couldn't fit everybody in, but that's at least 100 more people than the monkey survey. So at the last meeting, Alderman Frost, you said when this room
Ms.
fills
Sisler,
up, it changes my
I gotta
mind.
cut you off. So we
Okay.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of citizens' comments. The next item on the agenda is our committee reports. Yes, go ahead, Alderman Skidmore. Thank you, sir. Let me, hold on here. There we go, go ahead.
Okay, before we get into the body of the agenda, because I know we'll get to discuss all this, if we could have maybe just a 4-minute break, and then we'll get right into the agenda, would that be all right?
I'll second.
We've got a motion, a second for 4 minutes, not 5.
There you go.
I will make an amendment 3. I want to hold
We have a motion and a second for a 4-minute break. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. You want to show Angie opposed? Angie voted. Okay. Okay.
Some of us don't like soccer.
If we could get back together, please.
You're going to have to gavel them.
Yeah, we did that once. Thank you all. Next item on the agenda is committee reports. Finance Committee. Hold on, I need to turn this on so you can say that.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. After that is General Committee. Who is that? Alderman Sprouse.
Thank you. The General Committee had its first meeting after the election tonight. First item of business, I was elected chairman of the committee, and Mr. Gilly was elected vice chairman of that committee. We had a rather full agenda. We weren't able to get out to everything, but we did get to what we were supposed to. I'll kind of take them in backwards order, if that's okay. We had Resolution 2017-1, a resolution formally naming Arrowhead Park. That will be before this board in 2 weeks, and that was a 2-1 vote. And then we also had a resolution dealing with Norman Creek. It was a housekeeping issue, just kind of cleaning up some things that were presented to us at our last meeting. That was passed by the board unanimously. We deferred two items due to time. Ordinance 2017-4, which is the ordinance was mentioned earlier dealing with grass clippings and debris in the street. That will be at our next meeting next month. And then there was a discussion, there was a request for discussion about city attorney and appointment of city attorney in that process, and we deferred that as well. The issue that took most of our time was a report that's required by the General Committee at our first meeting following the election, which was tonight. And so we're obligated to give this report to the board. And what it has to do is, at the previous meeting, we had a discussion about committee on committees meets and make recommendations for committee assignments. Each alderman is a liaison, a non-voting liaison to another board or commission of the city, like the Arts Council, Beautiful Hendersonville, Beer Board, things like that. The only exception is the Planning Commission, in which that alderman is actually a voting member, and we had already decided and previously voted to appoint Mrs. Petrelli as our representative on the Planning Commission. We were charged with making a recommendation, and how this differs from the Committee on Committees report is the General Committee is not bound by or encouraged to consider seniority or to consider incumbency, squatters' rights, if you already have an assignment. The charge of the General Committee is to survey the board for their preferences, and with those preferences, make a report. The problem we ran into is two assignments were not requested, so the best that we could come up with was 10. That's where we look at right now. 11. We made some adjustments in committee. This is not uncommon. Not everyone stays on the same committee they were on last time. Not everyone gets first choice. That's not uncommon. That's just typically how the math works out. And I'm going to present the report that was recommended to this board by a 2-to-1 vote, and then I'm going to, as promised to members of the committee, ask for 1 or 2 items for option. In the first ward, Alderman Petrelli to the Planning Commission, Alderman Skidmore to Regional Board of Zoning Appeals. I would return to the Industrial Development Board, Mr. Campbell to the Beer Board, Ms. Hedberg to the Board of Adjustments and Appeals, Mrs. Cunningham to the Arts Council, Mr. Brown to Municipal Board of Zoning Appeals, Mr. Gilly to the Golf Course Commission, Mr. Frost to the Parks Board, Mr. Woodcock to the Personnel Board, Mr. Stamper to the Disability Board, and Mr. Waters to the organization that will replace or the reformed Beautiful Hendersonville, which is currently being reviewed, or has been charged with the Hendersonville Horizons Committee to do that. And so, the 2 items that, Mayor, if I can, suggest the 2 items that the committee had put on the table is either to first entertain a motion to accept the committee report as presented, and these would be the liaison reports, would be the liaison assignments, or ask for a deferral. The purpose for that deferral would be that when Ms. Petrelli was appointed to the Planning Commission, that immediately took that off the table for anyone else. And so if anyone else who had said they wanted to be on the Planning Commission, give them an opportunity. The 2 people who asked were Mrs. Hedberg and Mr. Waters were the ones. So those would be the 2 who would have the ability to adjust their assignment. So one of 2 options, either accept the report or to defer the report to give General Committee a chance to refer that. We bring it because it's required for us to bring it tonight.
Alderman Woodcock.
I just want to make a clarifying point. Based on the current choices, we could give everyone their first choice or their second choice without removing anyone from their boards who hasn't requested to be removed, just based on what they chose currently. Everyone gets their 8 people get their first choice, 3 people get their second choice. 1 person does not get a choice because there's not enough boards or commissions to fill it. Just so everyone knows that.
Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, first of all, I've got to say I was shocked when my colleague in Ward 2 made that presentation in the General Committee tonight. That was the first I had heard of a committee removing myself from the beer board. If we all recall, we had a form to sign, and we could put down as far as a liaison, the position we wanted. I was on the beer board, and I wanted to stay on the beer board as a liaison. And as soon as the Alderman Ward 2 was nominated as chairman of the general committee, he made it a point to see that I was removed from the beer board with no right to say, no, I don't want to move, I want to stay on the beer board. And during our meeting, and I hope he understands what he said in the meeting, because he mentioned several times that he had talked to another alderman about the beer board position. If that's the case, and he did say it, then he's violated the Sunshine Law by talking to somebody else about a position.
Let's go easy on that.
In the board.
Thank you, Alderman Waters.
Ma'am, sir?
Let's go easy on that. Go ahead.
How easy can I go on it? I am concerned that one person can come in and say a committee has decided you don't get what you want. And I just want the board to know that I did not request to move. I prefer to stay on the beer board. And I would like to find out from the committee why I was asked to move to another committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Waters. Alderman Gilly.
Thank you, Mayor. I was one of the second vote to bring this tonight because I felt like that was our job, obviously, to bring something, and it was clear that this was a lot of effort was put in by Mr. Sprouse to bring a plan together. I was also a person who didn't get my first choice, which I was okay with that. We're also in a unique spot where we have beautiful Hendersonville not currently meeting. Therefore, it's hard to fill every spot and give everybody any of their first or second choices, it's kind of why I kind of made the suggestion that if Planning Commission was off the table, I don't think some of the people would have chosen what they did as their first or second choice. I'm not saying we do that tonight. I am suggesting that in 2 years when we redo this, that we think about that as a board for sure, 100%, that once we vote a Planning Commission member in, or once somebody is appointed to Hendersonville Horizons, which isn't even on our list, but it's clearly a liaison/voting member position, I think that's something we need to think about next time, because that definitely affects what people would have put for their first or second choice. We had 3 people put Planning Commission down, with 2 of them having really no chance of being on the Planning Commission. But I will say I did make the second vote to bring this tonight. I think discussion is healthy on it, but I did appreciate the effort that Mr. Sprouse put into making a plan, which was, I mean, I tried myself, and it was like putting together a big jigsaw puzzle. So here we have, I guess I would have to ask the city attorney if it's even possible to defer something like this. I think we're kind of bound to vote on it. So anyway, that's what I have to say about it. Thank you.
If I could, Alderman Stamper, go ahead.
I was going to say, can we have this either in the form of motion or wait till it's
We've
further
got-
down before we have all this discussion?
Well, it's still it's a report, so we can have a discussion on it. And we've got entertaining 2 different motions. I think Alderman Gilly was close to making one, if that might help the situation.
I'd like to make one.
Okay, hold on one second here. Let me get you. Alderman Frost.
I haven't gotten one of those sheets to look, so with all that's been said, I have to agree with Mr. Stamper that we're having a lot of conversation we're going to duplicate again in 2 weeks, because we got to follow the 2-week rule. So I'll move that we defer for the 2 weeks. I don't think we have to act on this tonight, do we? We do? I'm required to report, but I mean, are we supposed to vote tonight?
I'm going to do my best to answer that, and I probably need to turn to Kay and just ask her if we have any of these committees that are going to be meeting in the next 2 weeks and how that impacts us.
Yeah, we have beer board.
We have a beer board meeting coming up that had been deferred.
I'll withdraw.
Jim's the only one who requested that as his first.
Hold on. Alderman Woodcock, we'll get back to you in just a second. Alderman Gilly.
I didn't mean to be in there, sorry.
Okay.
Rookie mistake.
Okay. Alderman Skidmore.
Yes, thank you. I would like to remind the board a couple of things, really, that doesn't have, well, it does have something to do with what we're discussing, but in a way that it does not. We've got to remember one thing during our deliberations, and I'm sure this is an oversight on the board as a whole. The assignment list is completely different than what the Planning Commission appointment is. If you will recall, if you will review your bylaws on the charter and under state law, the vice mayor is a standalone vote, and also by state law, we have to have a planning commission member, and that is a standalone vote as well. So those two items should never be included, never be included in these. We've done the right thing when we come to the vice mayor, and also we've done the right thing when it come to the planning commission vote. So I just want to, whatever the board wants to do on this, if everybody's got their first assignment, I don't, I've been up here a long time, and I mean, if everybody gets their first vote or first, I don't see a problem. And if sometimes you have to not have your first choice, I've been there myself, and that's just the way it works. But my only point is, I just want to remind the board about the planning commission member and also the vice mayor vote. Those are two standalone votes that we have to take. And the rest of these, we can work it out. But those two, I just, I don't want people to think, well, we'll do this next time, and we'll just throw the planning commission member in there too. We don't do that. And it specifically says that in our ordinance and our city charter, as well as, if I'm not mistaken, in the state law TCA. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Skidmore, thank you. Alderman Sprouse, as the chairman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to kind of wrap things up, if I could, just to give some clarification, I went into that meeting knowing that I was a member of the committee, and just like I do as a member of this board, when presented data that we're going to be deciding, I start to think about possible solutions. And that's why, as an individual alderman, walked into the meeting with a proposal, knowing that we had limited time. And when I made my judgment, I looked and saw what the responsibilities of the committee were, what the rules were. And when given the opportunity between two aldermen who wanted the same assignment, quite frankly, I made a decision based upon who I thought would be the better person in that role. In some cases, I spoke to representatives on those bodies. In some cases, I spoke to representatives of staff who work with those bodies, trying to make it as apolitical as possible and as drama-free. Mr. Skidmore is right. Not everyone always gets their first choice. I know a time a few years ago that I was liaison to a board. I had seniority. I had incumbency rights, if there were such a thing in the situation. I was not reappointed as liaison that day, and I went forward. Don't really want to have any drama. The situation, I'm not going to make the motion, but I would say that the two things that are before us tonight is that the mayor could entertain a motion to accept the report and we move forward. I will repeat the list to anybody who would like me to repeat the list before we vote on anything, or someone could make a motion to defer for whatever determined time that is, and as chairman of general committee, I will be happy to call a special meeting. Not really in favor of that, but I would be happy to call that special meeting so that the committee could consider again what those recommendations are. The world is not going to end. No legislation is going to go one way or the other based upon who we are as liaisons to non-voting committees. We do have the ability sometimes to affect how those committees work, and it was based upon those conversations with staff and people within those boards and commissions that I made my recommendations. Thank you. Would anyone like me to read the list again from the recommendation from the general committee?
We might come back to that in
Okay.
just a second. I gave you an incorrect answer. Beer Board is going to meet next week. Parks Board will probably meet before we meet again. Alderman Brown.
I'm going to move that we accept the committee's report as given us. It was a majority vote, 2-1, but that I don't see any need in deferring. That's all.
Okay. We've got a motion Second. Alderman Strauss, I'm going to ask you to repeat that slowly.
Yes, sir. And I'll take this as the order we read from the table, from my left to my right. Mrs. Petrelli, Planning Commission. Mr. Skidmore, Regional Board Zoning Appeals.
Scott, slow down.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Sprouse, Industrial Development Board. Mr. Campbell, Beer Board. Mrs. Hedberg, Board of Adjustment and Appeals. Mrs. Cunningham, Arts Council. Mr. Brown, Municipal Board Zoning Appeals. Mr. Gilly, Golf Course Commission. Mr. Frost, Parks Board. Mr. Woodcock, Personnel Board. Mr. Stamper, Disability Board. Mr. Waters, the newly formed committee or board to replace beautiful Hendersonville.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Alderman Woodcock will come to you second. Alderman Gilly.
It was discussed in general about Hendersonville Horizons and should it be on the list. I don't believe the previous organization, I think Hendersonville Tomorrow was, so I have no preference. I'm going to serve on it until you guys kick me off, so I'm happy to add that to the list and be that person, continue to be that person, but it may not be appropriate, so I wanted to bring it up now so that the attorney and mayor could let us know.
Hold on a second. Alderman Gilly, we're going to go over here to answer that question real quick. Thank you. Alderman Sprouse.
Researched that with city staff and just this morning, just to make sure, because I thought that that was the most elegant fit. The concern that was expressed to me was that that is an ad hoc committee that has an end date. It has a charge to it and an end date. The aldermanic representative on that committee is a voting committee, and we from time to time have ad hoc committees established that aldermen serve upon in addition to the liaison role, and that there could be a pattern that someone taking that assignment would take that assignment with the understanding that it would not take away their liaison role in the future. So I'm open to discussion on that, but I think that line of argument that was presented to me was pretty sound.
Alderman Gilly.
I kind of brought that up as well. I thought maybe Hendersonville Horizons belonged on the list, but the only thing I wanted to say here, and Mr. Skidmore, I definitely appreciate you bringing that up about planning. I didn't mean to suggest that planning was like a liaison. I know we voted on it. My only thing was, and I'm not saying we do this tonight, and I'm not saying we defer it, but I do want to again strongly suggest that next time we vote on the vice mayor and the planning commission member, and then give everybody a chance to pick their two liaison choices. I think that would be a smart thing to do the next time we go through this process. But I just want to make clear, we definitely came with what we're coming with, knowing that the planning commission was a voting member and a very important voting member. So, thank you.
Hold on, we'll come back to you in just a second. Alderman Gilly, thank you. Alderman Woodcock.
I am more than happy to present the list that gives more people their first and second choices, if someone would like to second that, if the board wishes.
You can present that list speaking. If you'd like to make an amendment to the motion, you're certainly welcome to do that as well.
I will if you give me the time.
Go ahead.
So, again, this gives everyone except one person their first or second choice. Peg Petrelli, Planning Commission, Mark Skidmore, Board of Zoning Appeals.
Slowly.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm just going down the list. It's easy. Just look at their first choice, and you had to go out of your way to not do this.
Okay.
The first four people get their first choice. Planning Commission, Peg Petrelli, Mark Skidmore, Board of Zoning Appeals, Scott Sprouse, IDB, Pat Campbell, Board of Zoning Appeals. Angie's left blank because there's not enough commissions. Arlene Cunningham gets her first choice. Steve Brown gets his second choice. Ham Frost gets his first choice. Andy Gilly gets his second choice. I get my first choice. Matt Stamper gave up his first choice and said he was okay with his second choice. And Jim Water gets his first choice. So everyone gets what they want unless we don't want them to get that. And I'm happy whichever way, but like I said, we went out of our way to not do it this way.
Is that a motion to amend the motion?
Yes.
Is there a second? Alderman Waters, second. Alderman Stamper.
Well, Mayor, this this was, we spent a long time the first night of the new swearing in talking about committees, and just wouldn't seem right if we didn't spend a long time talking about liaisons, which to some like me who was willing to give up theirs, it's not that crucial an issue. I will miss the Board of Adjustments and Appeals. We met once in my 6 years on that board. I'm not saying I try to get out of a board that meets regularly, but Disability Board, which I'm going to be on, doesn't currently have any members. So that's where I'm coming from. I get that certain people think certain aldermen are detrimental to the city's business. I get that. I hear opinions from staff, from different people saying, what are we going to do with such and such alderman? And I say, we got to stick them somewhere. So it's not about how I feel about Jim on the beer board, whether he's done a sufficient job or not. But Alderman Gilley mentioned this in general when he nominated Sprouse for chairman, and I'm a big fan of giving new folks that haven't had leadership positions, and spreading that around. But this is a little different to me, and I guess I'm just old school. And even though it's certainly not something we have to follow, but squatters' rights and somebody who's been serving on a liaison board, especially someone who's reelected decisively by the members of their aldermanic ward, I think they have earned the right to retain their seat, if you will. It's not an elected position like a chairman of a committee. So I don't think passing it around arbitrarily is something we ought to do. So on principle, I'm going to support the amendment made by Alderman Woodcock. Not to say that Alderman Campbell wouldn't do a great job on the beer board. I know he would. He does a great job in everything he's involved with. But just to be an old traditionalist, I'm going to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Stamper. Alderman Hedberg.
I just want to say that I don't mind being stuck anywhere as long as it is somewhere. And I did decide at the general meeting this evening that I would be put wherever I needed to go, because I actually thought it would avoid all this chatter that we're having this evening after the first, as Alderman Stamper just thought away. So I just wanted to plug that for the record. I think we've had way too much conversation about this, and I believe that we need to take care of this evening whatever way we can.
Thank you. Alderman Campbell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alderman Stamper, thank you for the kind words down there, sir. But having said that, when I joined this board a little over 2 years ago, they said, hey, you're going to be on the MBZA. I said, what is that? Municipal Board of Zoning Appeals. They only meet once or twice a year. You'll be okay. I said, okay. We have met every month since I have been on there, and it has been vacation rentals by owners, this room has been filled several times with people here telling us what they think about VRBOs. And I've gotten a very good education. Fred Rogers, thank you so much on that. But anyways, having said that, my first choice was the beer board, and that's where I thought, it'd be nice to serve on that particular board. And then that's how I got on to be MBZA, because I said, hey, you're new, you don't get a choice, here you go. That's how it was handed to me. So having said that, I will be glad to work with any position on this board. I try to fit in where I can and work the best I can with any of these aldermen here. I try not to let different opinions get in the way of working with everybody here. That's just my goal. And thank you.
Alderman Campbell, thank you. Alderman Gilley.
I didn't touch my button this time. I promise I did.
We have a properly made amendment, motion to amend this, and there's nobody else wishing to speak at this time. All those in favor of the amendment as expressed by Alderman Woodcock and properly second, please say aye. 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 All those opposed? No. We're going to have a roll call on that, please.
Brown?
No.
Campbell?
No.
Cunningham?
Yes.
Frost?
Aye.
Hedberg?
Yes.
Gilly?
No.
Petrelli?
No.
Skidmore? Sprouse?
No.
Stamper. Waters. Woodcock. Clary.
Alderman Skidmore?
Skidmore.
It doesn't matter now. It really doesn't matter how I vote, but it does.
The mayor votes aye. Alderman Skidmore?
Pass.
I'm going to vote no.
7 to 6 it passes.
By a vote of 7 to 6, it passes. We're now on the main motion, and that is to accept the committee report as amended. I think I'm expressing that correctly. All those in favor of accepting the committee report as amended, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. Alderman Sprouse, this is your committee report. You have the floor.
Thank you. I'm going to close. Part of the things that we do in committee reports is report on legislation that will be coming from the committee. I would like to express my intention to be sponsoring legislation to handle two things really in general committee. First, the issue that Mr. Gilly said, that we separate the survey process for boards and appointments, board liaison appointments, from the process from surveying for committee assignments, since they are separated from about a month. And the second is I will also be asking the general committee to consider legislation and recommend it to this board to changing the time of the general committee meeting so we don't have an hour's worth of work in 30 minutes next time. Thank you.
Real quick question. You mentioned the possibility of holding a special general committee meeting.
Yes.
You still entertaining that?
Anything in particular? Because we don't have anything to do. I mean,
You had a couple things that you didn't get to tonight?
what I'll do is I will get with my committee members and come up with a schedule and report back to city recorder.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have questions for Chairman Sprouse? Okay. Next is, yes, Public Safety Committee. Did I forget anything of this?
I hope this is a little more lighthearted report.
Oh, hold on, there we go.
Okay, state again, I hope this is a little more lighthearted report. We met this evening. I was elected chairman of that committee, and Alderman Petrelli was elected our vice chairman. We had ordinance 2017-1 that came before us, which was a donation of $18,060.03 from the Jack Harrell estate. We approved that for use in our fire department and to replace some equipment. We also had ordinance 2017-2 that came before us, which was a donation of $1,000 from Wade and Karen Hickman to be used by the police department. That was also approved unanimously. I would also like to state that anybody in the audience that would like to give us money, we will be glad to take that up at the next meeting and probably approve that unanimously. So, we had a very in-depth discussion regarding Station 2. We have some structural issues in Fire Station 2. We're waiting on some engineering reports to come back to us before we make a decision on what needs to be done there. Our fire chief believes that we can have most of that information by this time next month at our meeting. We also had a lengthy discussion about plans for Fire Station number 7, either in the Mansker Farms or the Durham Farms area, and we'll continue that discussion as hand in hand with the discussion on what we'll be doing with Fire Station 2. We talked about issue on traffic on Curtis Crossroads and a homeowner that was having some accidents and people running in his yard. We had a discussion with that. The police department talked with Ms. Petrelli, and I think we have some satisfaction maybe there. We also, if some of you remember, not long ago, we had some pipes break in our police department. Not because of freezing, but just for the simple fact they're getting older and they have some issues there. So we're in the process of receiving bids on replacing those water lines and pipes. Hopefully by this time next month we will have those bids and we will know what our expenditure will be and how quick we need to move forward with them. Thank you, Mayor. That's my report.
Thank you. Does anybody have questions for Chairman Brown? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Alderman Brown. Public Works Committee.
Yes, sir.
There we go.
All right, thank you. We have no official report tonight. We are going to be meeting this month, and I may have in 2 weeks, when we do meet again, I may have a report then, but if not, it'll be the end of the month. Thank you.
Thank you. Capital Projects Committee report.
We don't have a chairman for that yet, Mayor. We appoint the next meeting.
Okay.
No report at this time.
No report. Planning Commission, Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor Clary. At the January 3rd meeting, the Planning Commission approved the following projects. And there's 7 projects, so it's kind of lengthy. The final development plan for Norman Creek, which is located at the east side of Anderson Road and south of Fountain Brook Drive. The site plan for 84 Lumber, which is located at the southeast end of Tennessee Way off of Volunteer Drive. Number 3, the final development plan revision for Millstone, phases 1 through 12, which is located off of Saundersville Road. 4th project is the site plan for the Speedway, which is going to be located on the east side of Winston Hills Parkway and north of Main Street. The 5th project is the site plan for Jonathan's Grill, which is located on the west side of Indian Lake Boulevard. 6th project that was approved is the site plan for Maple Row Medical Offices, which will be located on the west side of Maple Row Boulevard, south of East Main Street. And the 7th project is the site plan for Mall Properties Executive Building, which is located on the east side of Executive Park Drive, south of East Main Street. The Planning Commission recommended denial of the preliminary development plan for Stratton Downs, which was proposed location off of Jones Road, north of Stop 30 Road. And I believe the following day, the application for that project was actually withdrawn by the developer. The Planning Commission also elected officers, Bob Frudenthal as chairman, David Jenkins as vice chairman, Lori Atchley as secretary, and Charles Lee as alternate secretary. And next week, on Tuesday, January 17th at 6:30 p.m., there will be a work session regarding the accessory dwellings units. That's all.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Alderman Petrelli? Thank you. Alderman Woodcock, Hendersonville Horizons.
No report. We're really slowing down to allow more concentration on the census efforts.
Thank you. The mayor's report, a couple things. You notice this sign right here. I think that's exceptional. We've had 19,199 people respond to this so far with very little effort and very little money spent so far. This special census allows us to bring in more money from the state every year. That's going to help us pave roads. It's going to help us build sidewalks. It's going to help us hire and pay fire and police officers and firefighters. It's going to help us do more of what we do right now. So please, if you haven't mailed in your census form, please do that. There's also an email address on there. You can feel free to email it. And Alderman, if you hear from anybody that says they don't want to participate, please ask them their name and their address and who else lives at their house, and let them know they don't have to participate anymore. But the special census is very important. It's going to help us an awful lot the next couple of years. Another item is that we're going to have a work session on January 31st. We're going to cover a couple topics on there, probably 4 or 5. The primary topic, we're going to talk about open meetings and open records and public records. And yes, that meeting will be open to the public. We probably won't be up here. We'll probably be down there and having a discussion that's a little less formal. Now, I have to apologize to y'all who are here. We are being sued. As of Thursday, I believe it was, we got a summons, and we're defending in a lawsuit. The 13 of us and our city attorney and our city recorder have to go off privately for a few minutes. I don't think it's going to last more than 10 or 15 minutes, but we have that opportunity because through Tennessee state law to have a private meeting in this situation. So we will go back to the aldermanic room, and we will not be having a discussion. We'll be asking our city attorney questions, and he will be giving us some information. And we'll be back in a few minutes. Do I need a motion for that?
Back in business.
Okay. The brief version of this is that we're being sued by an individual who had an accident in the city of Hendersonville running, and we are moving forward in a manner allowed by the state of Tennessee in defending ourselves. Next on the agenda, ordinances and resolutions. Alderman Petrelli, do you have a motion on second reading of ordinance 2016-28, an ordinance to approve a revised preliminary development plan for Mansker Farms as a representative to the Planning Commission? Nope, there we go.
I do not, but I have 3 points I'd like to make. May I do that?
We need to have a motion. Would somebody else like to make a motion? Okay, Alderman Sprouse in a second, and Alderman Petrelli, and then Alderman Hedberg. Thank you.
Okay, first off, I'd like to just review the legislative history on this particular project for Mansker Farms, is that it did come through the Planning Commission prior to my tenure, and it did receive a favorable recommendation. From that point, it went through the General Committee twice, and we passed it on with no recommendation. So here we are now at Boma. So that's the legislative history. Personally, the concerns that I have is that I just want to make sure that there is no misunderstanding that if the revised plan is tabled, that this project will not be built out. That's my concern, that a majority of folks feel that if we go back to the original plan 20 years ago, this may curtail this property being built out. That's a concern of mine. I want to make sure everybody's on the same page with that. And then my third point is I want to hear from the 2 aldermen in Ward 3 what they have to say about this project, because last month one voted yes and then one abstained. So being in a different ward and not living in your community per se, I want to hear what the feedback is that the aldermen have received. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Petrelli. Alderman Hedberg.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, what I want to do is I want to set the record straight for the reason that I abstained my vote 2 weeks ago. I had several calls asking me why I voted yes. I did not vote yes. I abstained my vote. And for those of you who were not here, the reason I abstained my vote was simple, because we had one more public hearing, which is tonight while you're all here. And I was hoping and praying that we would get the turnout that we've got this evening, and we did. I had no idea whether it was going to be like this or not. The developer called me and asked me, what do you think? I'm not sure. So I'm glad that we've got this turnout. I'm a little sad that we didn't get the turnout in the last meetings that we had. And that kind of left myself and Alderman Cunningham wondering, do they want it? Do they not want it? How do they feel? Personally, when I was campaigning, I said I did not want this. I was voting against it. I did not want houses directly outside my back door or that green space disappearing. That was a personal vote. When I got elected, and I had no idea whether I was going to win or not, and when I won my election, I changed that. And I changed that because I couldn't make that vote for me as one person, one sole person out of 710 homeowners. So I said I would vote with the majority. We don't have a majority. We've never had a majority. I started off with 18 people calling me. 4 of them said yes for the new plan. 14 of them said for the old plan. We also had a survey. We did have 44 people on that survey actually give their name and address. 4 of them voted for the old plan, and the rest of them voted for the new plan. So we were 50-50. Out of 100 names that I had, I couldn't come here and say yes out of 100 people from 710, albeit that I believe 500 is a better number because I think we have about 200 rentals in the association. So I wanted to put the record straight. I did not vote yes. That is a perception. An abstaining vote is what you believe it to be in your heart. In my heart, it was not a yes vote. But I couldn't vote yes and I couldn't vote no because I didn't have enough information. So I wanted to set that straight. As far as Alderman Petrelli, in answer to your question, my concerns are the same as what they've always been. And top of that list is infrastructure. When I was running my campaign, one of the reasons I wanted to run for office was because of lack of infrastructure. You cannot keep development after development after development and not have the infrastructure in place. It's just not possible. And this is why Stratford Downs was voted no 2 weeks ago at the Planning Commission, because the infrastructure is not there. and they weren't even people, they were just people surrounded. They're not even in the neighborhood that they were planning on building. We have so many developments that are ahead of us now that I'm not really sure where Hendersonville is going. It saddens me to believe that we want to become Nashville, Atlanta, California. That's not what Hendersonville is. Hendersonville is a bedroom community. And this is why I loved it when I came here. This is what I love about Hendersonville. And I believe this is why the people on Jones Road all got up, and they filled this room last week. They literally filled it. They were outside it. They were around the walls. There was hundreds of people here, and that got voted down no, because they're on 1 and 5 acre lots. And then we're about to come in and put what we called stacked units. It's an apartment, people. I'm sorry. And I'm asking and I implore every single alderman sitting here tonight to think about where it is that we believe that Hendersonville is going. And it cannot be Nashville. We are not Nashville. We're Hendersonville. Thank you.
Alderman Hedberg, thank you. Alderman Stamper.
Can I get Mr. Rogers to come to the podium? I got a couple of questions. Fred, on staff comments, number 1, Lovelace Farm site on Center Point Road. It says here it conflicts with the proposed new plan. In what way does that conflict exist? Can you turn his microphone on, please?
I'm sorry. Go ahead,
The
Fred.
farm
Thank you.
site as shown on the tax map actually encompassed part of the Massacre Farm subdivision. So we asked the developer to resolve that, and that has been resolved.
Okay. All right. Also, are there, with the existing plan currently in place, is there site improvements to include turn lanes that must be put in place if they proceed with the plan that's already on there?
No.
Okay. What about the fire hall that they're going to deed lots 8 and 9 to the city for a fire hall site? Does the current plan involve them deeding sites over to the city for a fire hall if we keep the original plan?
It does, but it's an unbuildable site.
Oh, it's the
further
one
to
that's
north.
up north?
Right.
So does this new plan, it has more open space in it, correct?
Correct, substantially.
And it's a lower number of houses being built, correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Fred. That's all I have for now, Mayor.
Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, everybody, for coming. A lot of my friends, neighbors, and just, this has been a long, long road that we have all gone through for about 6 to 8 months, I think. Many meetings, wanting to get the heartbeat of the community. Mayor, is it possible for me to suspend the rules? I'd like to, who authored the petition? Was it you, Ken?
Yes.
Can I suspend the rules and ask Ken?
Make a motion. You gonna do that?
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second? Okay. We need a 2/3 vote in this situation. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Go ahead.
Ken?
To have Ken Faust? Okay.
With the line at the
Okay,
top, yes.
I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Fire away.
About the petition,
Sure.
because this is the first I've ever laid eyes on it.
I understand.
And thank you for taking the time and effort to do it. I know you and several other people,
I
worked
think
it.
there were about, 8 or 10 of us.
Yeah, okay. And I know it was cold.
It was very cold. The ink in I started out with 3 pens. The ink froze in all 3 of them within the first hour I was out. Fortunately, I got to home, and a woman offered me 2 more pens, and one of them worked like a charm. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I'd like to know, I see on the top it says, "We, the undersigned homeowners of Massacre Farms, wish to keep our current zoning."
Correct.
Okay. The zoning's not going to be changed. Am I right on that?
Well, that's
It's just
wrong.
the
Actually, you would have to rechange. For instance, the commercial area is now going to be residential, so it would change. Yes, there would have to be.
Okay, so the whole plan is changing. Is that the only thing that you asked them, or were they aware of a new plan and what that new plan consisted of? Or were
Well,
were they
I'll-
just asked about the old plan?
Well, let me answer that a couple of different ways. First of all, I was pleasantly surprised by how many people knew about the old plan and the new plan. Or the existing plan, I guess I should say, and the new plan. Furthermore, when we went out, we each, had a packet that we sort of went with, and we carried a copy of the existing plan and the proposed plan. So if anybody had any questions, we could show them both plans, and they would know exactly what was going to happen in both areas.
And the reason I ask you is because I got, the emails that I got over the last 2 weeks or so.
Yeah.
Every single email thought that the attached homes were still in the revised plan. Did you get any
Not from
questions
anything I
about
sent
that?
out. I'm not aware of, I don't know who would have sent those out. I did not.
No, not you. I just got them personally.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't know about that. If people had questions, certainly we answered those questions for them. But I think people were far more aware of what all was in this thing than you might have suspected. And of course, there were meetings, as you know, down at the clubhouse.
Yes.
To discuss what all was going on there. I think that there is such a thing as meeting burnout. And I think there were so many meetings that it was very difficult for people. And I will be honest with you, there were so many changes. Every time we'd have a meeting, things would change. For instance, at one of those meetings that they held down at the clubhouse, one of the associates from Land Solutions got up and said, you people want a swimming pool? He starts describing the swimming pool they're going to get. Well, anybody who attended that meeting would have thought, hey, if I vote for this, I'm getting a swimming pool. Well, we were told shortly thereafter, no, you're not getting a swimming pool. And so there were an awful lot of changes that were made.
I know there was a lot of miscommunication and then communication and then changes, and people weren't aware of all the changes, and like you said, the promise of a swimming pool and
well, there were
additional
all
amenities.
sorts of things that were on there.
I just want to try to get my head around if this is, if this is a real good survey. I know it's 250 people, you said, right?
250 homes, actually.
And they're all owner occupied?
Every one of them, yeah. See, we actually
Okay.
even had, every person, we had lists that included only the homes that were owner occupied.
Okay.
Because there are 710 homes, 600 of them are actually owner occupied, the other 110 are not.
Correct.
And so when we would go door to door, we would know exactly which homes to hit and which homes to skip.
How did you know that? Just from the HO, from
It's
your records
it's
in
information that the HOA has.
Okay, all right,
yeah.
good.
So,
So it's good information then you have?
Absolutely, it was completely valid, and, you're certainly welcome to check the stuff, but, yeah, those were the only addresses that we were looking for, because we felt that the only people who could really speak for each of those, homeowners were homeowners.
Right, exactly. Okay, that answers my questions.
Okay, yeah, the only thing I would say to you is that we did all this basically in about 2 days, and, of course, the weather was absolutely horrible. I would say that probably half the homes you got to, nobody was home. It's a Saturday, it's a Sunday,
Yeah.
people are out doing things.
I know.
But, and someone wanted you to come in, and they wanted to talk to you for a while. But people didn't have to say, what's this about? I know what this is. I understand what this is, no problem, I'll sign it. I had one person, and I think I picked up 69 or 70 homes. I had one guy who said, I'm in favor of the new plan because he said, it'll leave more trees behind my house. And I said, fine, no problem. And he didn't sign it. But again, I had 69 or 70 people who actually did sign the thing without any problem, without any prompting. So,
Did anyone mention to you that they had taken that other survey that Gertner had sent?
yes, and I'll tell you what, I probably had at least a half a dozen people who told me how easy it was to fake a survey monkey. As a matter of fact, we've recently gotten some information that proves unquestionably that probably at least 5 of the homes that were listed on there as having voted yes, definitely voted no. So we know that the survey monkey results were absolutely invalid.
So in other words, Gertner, you think Gertner skewed those results?
No. The thing about Survey Monkey is anybody can get on there basically and do about whatever they want. You don't have to be living in Master Farms when you do it. You can go on, each time you go onto a different mobile device, it will accept that as another vote. You can just put in any address you want. And so that thing is completely bogus. And
Okay.
it was well-intentioned.
Yeah, because that
But-
was the only thing we had to go by 2 weeks ago.
I know, and had I been in
That
your
was the
shoes.
only heartbeat of the community that we had, other than just people calling us, and we compiled those results too, emailing us and that sort of thing.
No, it was going, I'd say at least 10 to 1 in favor of keeping the current plan. I had a couple of people that didn't want to sign it because they said, I don't know enough about it. But, and as I said, the one fellow mentioned.
Did anybody express express to you that if we kept the current plan, that it would not be developed?
I think that was a thing, something I heard in several places, and the reason I say that, I don't think anybody really believed that the plan was going to be fully developed either way, because what you have is a piece of ground that the previous developers just gave up on, because it's so hard to damage it. What it is something, you could Google if you want to, called hard ground. It was only created by...
Okay, well, that's good.
Okay, that's fine, but no,
good answer.
so when you talk about,
Okay,
whether
thank
it's-
you, Ken,
Ken,
thank you.
Actually, Ken, stay there. Let's see, if anybody else have any questions while we've got rules suspended for Ken? Okay, Alderman Sprouse?
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Cunningham. Go ahead.
Thank you, Ken.
Steve. You're next.
It's unfortunate that your comments, you called members of this board corrupt.
I did not do
Alderman
that, sir.
Sprouse, I think we have the opportunity to ask questions at this point. Let's take that opportunity.
I'm sorry, but my questions have to do with the nature of the petition. Did you take steps to guarantee that the petition was widely circulated and consistently circulated?
Can we have my soda for a minute? Please, my soda. Any soda? I'm dry up here. Sorry about this. I think some politician got a bad name for himself doing this, but
That's fine.
I'm not a product plug. Thank you. We had responses from every part of Mansker Farms. We had people in different parts, and we had, as I say, different lists. We didn't want to be stepping on each other's territories, as it were, so I know I had about 4 streets, and other people had other areas, and if you look at the list, you'll find that there are responses from all over Mansker Farms. There was no area we avoided, no area we wanted to avoid.
Okay, so I mean, there wasn't a case where there were people who were avoided or households were avoided, because we've heard one case of someone who said no one visited them. I've since had someone text me that no one visited them.
Well, let me tell you, we had about 2 days to do this,
Okay.
and I can say, without fear of correction, that probably half the doors I got to, nobody answered. Okay, and it was a weekend, so either a lot of people weren't home, or if it's our neighborhood, supposedly there's not supposed to be any soliciting in there, but an awful lot of people are going to come to the front porch. They're going to see.
Alderman Sprouse, hold on. He's answering the question. Go ahead.
They're going to come to the front porch. They're going to see somebody standing there with a clipboard and a pen, and they're going to think somebody wants to sell me downspouts and gutters. And they're just not going to answer the door, and I can understand that. So
I was going to say, as someone who spent a significant portion of last year knocking on doors, I understand.
Okay,
that-
well,
that
yeah,
response.
then about half of them will answer and half of them won't.
This petition has one sentence at the top of it. We,
Yes.
the undersigned homeowners of Mansker Farms, wish to keep our current zoning.
Correct?
How was that current zoning presented? I mean, when someone said, "What's our current zoning?" How was that information presented?
Well, I had a copy of a map to help them out, so if they had any questions about it, they were certainly welcome to look at it.
Okay.
If they had any questions about any particular areas, they were certainly welcome to ask them. But again, I found again and again and again, these people, in many cases, have lived there for, 10, 15, 20 years, and they know where they live, and they know what the zoning's like.
When they asked what the new zoning was, how was that presented to them?
Again, we could tell them, what was being built if they had any questions, or what we knew was being built. Of course, well, I know we've got the maps. No, we've got the new map also. Yeah, we've carried both maps. So, if they had any questions, and again, a lot of them have seen this. Believe it or not, they actually watch you folks on Channel 3, and they've kept track of a lot of it. We've also had, again, a number of meetings that were held at the clubhouse. Anybody who wants to get questions answered can certainly get questions answered. So I think anybody who wanted information probably already had it. I guess that's the best answer I can give you.
And you didn't take any steps to indicate someone who maybe expressed a different opinion?
No, I didn't, because there was no reason to, frankly. I mean, I don't go out there and say, well, I know what you think, but I'm going to tell you something else. I don't work that way.
Okay.
You know, I mean, frankly, I was trying to cover as much ground as I could. We all were. And I wasn't going to stand there in the cold and debate with somebody something they had already made up their minds on. I mean, it just wasn't going to happen.
Okay.
Thank you, Ken.
Okay.
Any more questions from Alderman Strauss?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Ken, if Alderman Brown. And
Thank
by the
you.
way, you're completely voluntarily answering these questions. We can't force you to answer any
No,
questions.
I'll be glad to answer anything I can. No problem.
We'll put you there. Go ahead, Alderman Brown.
Thank you. First of all, I would tell you, Ken, if you're out selling downspouts and gutters last Saturday morning, I would talk to you. 'Cause it was cold.
It was
really
cold.
So, and I do appreciate walking and talking. I understand what walking, knocking doors, and talking to people in rainy weather, cold weather. Anybody that's spent any time politicking up here at all has done that. So, and that's kind of what you were doing. But I have two or three questions. Is this the entire list of everyone that signed?
Yeah, that's
250
it.
homes?
Yeah, 250 homes. Now, you'll find a few more lines there than 250 because in some cases,
counted them, sir.
husband signed on one line, wife wanted to do on the next.
I counted them.
Okay.
Your figures are off a bit.
How far off?
Rental properties. I've heard in Mensker Farms from two different sources, and I heard 200 tonight and 100 tonight.
Well, somebody said 200. Actually, the number is 110. We've got 710 homes total.
Right.
110 are listed as rental properties at this point, and the other 600 are owner-occupied.
Okay. Out of those rental properties, just curious, did you contact any of those homeowners?
No, we did not want to contact
Okay,
those.
thank
Again,
you.
if
And-
somebody
and
hit one by
thank you.
accident,
Hold on, Steve.
then you go back, you cross it
Answer
out.
my question. Thank
on.
you.
Hold on, Steve.
And you say it's zoning change.
Yeah.
This is a plan change. Is
Well,
that not
actually,
correct?
part of it does, the zoning does change.
Alderman Brown, is there a question there?
There's a question, I'm looking at Fred, actually. Is this a zoning or a plan change? Thanks, Fred.
Oh, hold on, Mr. Faust, just go ahead and Fred, but Mr. Faust, don't go far.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. And if you do sell downspouts, I'm going to be interested.
I'll give it a buzz.
Go ahead, Fred.
It is a plan change. It's not a zone change.
Okay.
It's just a matter of semantics.
Have one more question.
Back a few years ago, when we adopted the new zoning ordinance, this property was given a zoning designation of, I believe, MXR, mixed residential. And so that base zoning remains the same. It's a plan change.
Back to Mr. Faust.
One more question for Ken.
Okay.
In you all polling door to door, were you telling those neighbors that this was a zoning change or a plan change?
That's right, I did it.
When the city put it, may I speak, since we're not?
Hold on.
That's not up to me, that's up to the mayor. It's
We
okay
have
with
to,
me.
hold on one second. We have to have a motion to suspend the rules, allow you to speak. I'm
I thought you already
sorry.
suspended.
Tell
them.
Ken.
We did for
Good for
Ken,
him.
but,
One person.
yeah. Do we have, tell me your
Ken, let
name
her
again.
tell you.
It's
Barb Griffith.
Barb. Do we have a motion to suspend the rules to have
So
Barb
moved.
speak? Thank you.
I'll
Do we have a second? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Come on up.
I was just
Sorry
going to make
about
one
that.
comment. When the city first put out the notices in our neighborhood to let us know that there were meetings regarding this issue, every single sign said that it was a rezoning. And we asked questions about that because we thought, oh, it's a rezoning, so you saw these signs. So all of us were told, we'd asked this question several times, and we were told rezoning, that this involved rezoning. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
Because the signs from the city said rezoning.
Thank you.
I think we've got another,
Okay, any other questions for Barb?
I had one, but I forgot what it was, but I think Mr. Rogers needs to address that, or at least I would like for him to.
Okay,
Answer questions.
Fred, please go. Barb, don't go far. Okay, okay.
Right here.
You're still up there. Don't sit down, we'll have to suspend again.
It's been a long time since that was done, but I believe, and do you recall the actual wording on the sign, from what to what?
Well, no, of course not.
Okay.
It was lots of stuff,
Okay.
and it said rezoning.
Okay.
So we all asked
We use we have signs already made up, we just changed the lettering. But it would have said MX, it would have said, I believe, MXR PD, and MXR is the underlying zone, the actual zoning. PD stands for Planned Development. So it was from MXR PD to MXR PD.
Rezoning.
It says rezoning. It
So
says
so
rezoning.
the base zoning stays the same. Yes, the sign does, the sign does say rezoning, but it says from MXR PD to MXR PD,
Okay.
a new plan.
Any other questions
Yep.
for Mr. Rogers?
No, I'd just like to state, that could be very confusing to me too, so I can see we're all confused with that. Thank you.
Okay.
And since I'm still, since you still
well-
suspended for me, may I say something?
1 second. Alderman Gilly, I think you were next. Did
I
you
don't
want to ask
have a
question?
question for either one of them.
I had to
Okay.
ask.
Do we have any other questions?
But I
for-
do
can't
want to
ask.
speak. You tell me when it's
do
my
have-
turn.
Okay,
I
we'll
do have
get
a
there.
question.
Alderman, you do have another question for them?
Yes, I'd like to hear what she's got to say.
Okay, go ahead. Barb,
What do you
go
have to
ahead.
say?
Wow, talk about semantics. Yes, this is all, it's like a twist of words, trying to twist things around
It
so
is.
you can vote the way you want, is how it appears to me. But anyway, not that I'm accusing anybody of that, but boy, it's coming across that way. So if you don't mean it to come across that way, then please know it is coming across that way, okay? We're getting that inference from you, okay? But anyway, when I was out talking to people, I didn't just say rezoning, okay? We talked about the development that we have now versus the new development that he is wanting to propose, okay? So we talked about it. It's not like I just said, we are rezoning. But again, you're talking semantics here. We had long discussions with people, at least I did, because they were passionate about it. Most of them knew what we were talking about it. They talked about it. The old plan, new plan, a developer coming in and wanting to change the plan. And yes, we called it rezoning at times, and yes, we covered all parts of the neighborhood, and I did not avoid anybody except if I knew it was a renter, because yes, we would want to talk to just the homeowners who owned in the neighborhood. I got to everybody I could, and it was 36 homes, 35 said yes.
Okay. Barb, thank you.
Oh, am I still? Okay. Do I need to wait?
Alderman Cunningham, do you have a question for either one of them?
No, I think I asked my questions.
Okay. Does anybody have a
I saw
que-
some comments.
Does anybody else have a question for either one of them? Okay, thank you all very much. We
Thank you.
appreciate that. Alderman Gilly.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you all for coming. I have had to come up there on that side and speak myself, and I am the new person, so that is why I feel comfortable talking about this, even as a newer elected person. And I don't know if it was just because it was Christmas break and I had more time, but I probably got 7 or 8 emails, I think, from that area. It's not my ward, and I got emails. And even if it was to say thank you for taking your time to email, I responded to every one of them. My point here is with comparing this survey, and we have questions of who, did you tell them this, did you tell them this plan, that plan? The one email that I got back after I said thanks for your email, one of them out of 8 sent back. I was just informed that multifamily units have been removed. If this is the case, I have told the developer as I support it, as this may be the best deal we get now or in the future. That is from a person whose name is also on this survey, which it just makes me severely question when you have 8 people. I'm not saying that you all that have spoke tonight, you said you had 8 people going giving a survey. It's hard for me to tell how many people said what to who when you don't have a consistent person giving out a survey. That will probably be my only comment on the whole issue. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Woodcock.
I think you have a couple questions for Fred, Mr. Rogers. First, just clarification, so multifamily is out. It's not in the plan.
That is correct. Everything is single-family detached.
Do we have pictures of these, the units that we've been referring to as the stacking units?
There's no stack. No, there's no stack. That was another.
So what-
Talking about
What was, okay, that's what you were referencing, not this. That's what confused me. That's why I wanted to see them. Third, we had an issue in another subdivision in Ward 5 where the product was being built for the aging community, but it also kind of fit renters. And so that subdivision fought that. And the compromise was the HOA changed their covenants to restrict renters to a percentage of the neighborhood, like only 10% of the neighborhood could be rented. The HOA could do that, correct? I mean, that's nothing that would prevent them from our end to do that, right?
the developer could do that, and let me address that a little bit in more detail. As far as I know, there are no covenants for this property, this undeveloped property. Typically, what happens there is the owner developer, as they record a plat, they would record covenants. And what they can do is they can basically impose the covenants that exist for the previous sections, or they can adopt new covenants, or no covenants at all. Now, perhaps some of the homeowner association people here may have done some research on the covenants, but as best I can tell, and the owner's representative could also address this, as far as I can tell, there are no covenants that apply to this property right now. So if this plan is denied, just please understand that we would fully expect them to develop according to the current plan, which would be more lots, more blasting, closer to the existing homes. And there would be no guarantee that there would be any minimum size covenants imposed. Likewise, there would be no guarantee that there would be any building standards imposed. We already know that certain parts of Mansker has homes that are vinyl, so they could be vinyl. So I just want to make sure those facts are clear. Did that answer your question?
Yes, that, what you just said goes if we deny this and they go with the existing approved plan.
Correct.
Okay.
And you know, based on my experience, knowing how developments work and how developers work, they have already bought this property. So it's no doubt in my mind it will be developed. And if all they can develop based on is the current plan, then that's certainly what they will do.
Thank you. Next is a comment. I'm going to be honest, I'm really torn on this because I try to do, every time I vote on something, I try to look at it from three ways. From my seat, so what's best for the city. This is not Ward 5, so I have to look at it from what's best for the city. I try to see what the aldermen that represent the area say and respect them, and then I try to envision if I lived in that community what I would want. My first thought is that proposed plan is better for the city. But if I live there, I may not be so inclined to support it. And I'm not quite sure where the Ward 3 aldermen stand, to be honest with you. I'm not clear if you guys are in favor of it or not. So at this time, I think I'm going to continue with my vote from the last meeting and vote in favor of it, unless I hear something from the Ward 3 aldermen to change my mind. No pressure.
Alderman Woodcock, thank you. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, thank you for everybody for coming. I said from the beginning, majority rules. Okay, that's why I'm trying to wrap my head around this survey, the petition. I wasn't aware of it until an hour ago. And the survey had some flaws in it, yes, I agree, totally. I got some emails, like I said, over the last few weeks, people thinking that we still had the attached homes as part of the plan, and that kind of blew my mind after all that we went through. But like I said, from the beginning, no matter how I feel personally about it and how hard we worked to get this to what everybody wanted. We got the attached homes out. We got the development of the front part out. We got the square footage of the minimum square footage increase from 1,350 square feet up to 1,600 square feet on the smaller homes. That probably you don't even know about either. Yes, we have. You're shaking your head no. Yes, we have.
Hold on. Alderman Cunningham, let's
Okay, I'm
address
sorry.
comments
I'm
up here.
sorry.
Okay.
But like I said, majority rules. I'm going to vote how the majority of the homeowners, I've been there for 20 years, and we've been, Mona and a couple of us have been through, with the developers. They wanted to put a retirement home in there at one time, and some condos and apartments, and and we fought it tooth and nail. So, like I said 2 weeks ago, the only thing that I had to go by was that survey, which was flawed, I agree. But that was the only thing we had. And I really appreciate the work that you put into this to go door to door when it was like 2 degrees out. And just know that I'm going to vote with how the majority wants to vote with this. I live there. I've lived there for many, many years. I know most of you, your friends, neighbors, and we're trying with the developer to get the best deal that we can get for you. And for us. And with this changes the whole complex of it, okay? And I can't support it with the way that this stands right now. I'm done.
Okay. Alderman Cunningham, thank you for your comments. Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mayor Clary. I apologize for keeping you all out so late, but as my colleague in Ward 5, he starts the bus running about 10 o'clock. We've got about 10 minutes. Mr. Chairman, I'm reminded in our last meeting when our vice mayor and my colleague from Ward 5 made a comment, and I may not repeat exactly what he said, but he made a lot of sense, and I appreciate what he said. He mentioned that when 2 or 3 residents come and speak about an ordinance before this body, and there's hardly no one there to support them, it makes me wonder. But when we get a room full of residents to come and speak like this evening, and like last Tuesday at the Planning Commission meeting where people were standing around the walls out in the hallway, I think some was in the parking lot, it does make a difference. It makes you take notice. It does me. And again, what my colleague said, he was right on target. Ladies and gentlemen who have spoken tonight, you have spoke well. I personally can associate myself with you who've invested your life's earnings in your home, your dream, your future, and your children's future. I realize how you want to preserve the beauty of your subdivision, and I don't blame you. I yield back, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Waters. Alderman Stamper.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't be getting a standing ovation after I speak, I can tell you that. But we do have to make tough decisions up here. We have to eventually come around and make the best informed decision we can with the information that we have in front of us. There's been a lot of effort to engage the community, and we've seen how some of that has been, I don't even understand the Survey Monkey stuff, and when it comes to folks signing petition, and then some of them may think that the petition, that they may think in their mind there's still attached units involved. At some point, we just have to make a decision what we think is best for the city. And while any decision we make is going to be unpopular with some people, this is a good plan. And the way some things are being spun, last time I was here, I was listening about somebody I've known most of my whole life, and by the time I finished hearing him, I was like, surely that's not the same person. That person sounds like just a crook. And of course, I talked to my friend and got the other side. There's always 2 sides to every story. And sometimes we just hear one side, and one side loudly and incessantly. But when all the facts are in and the plan reduces the number of homes that are being built out there and eases traffic congestion, there's the old plan, there's no covenants at all. They could all be renters. There's so many things that I have a fear that, and probably nobody in this room, But a lot of folks out there, maybe in their mind, thinks, well, if we can get this killed, nothing's going to get built. And they may say, I don't believe that, but I think that they believe that. I could be wrong. And so they say, well, just kill this and we'll go with the old plan. The old plan is not superior, and we have to vote on the plan that's in front of us and say, is this the best use of this land? There's no question in my mind it is the best use of the land. We're getting deeded to us two lots to put a much needed fire station. We're 2 fire stations short right now. I appreciate the input we've had, and I appreciate the efforts to reach out to the community and get them involved. But we have to make sure that we have informed discussions, and that folks that are opposed understand what they're opposing, and not opposing something that's not on the table. And what's not on the table is nothing being developed. Sorry for all the double negatives. To me, it's the Planning Commission recommended this. We voted almost unanimously last time. All the concerns I've had have been addressed. They're putting $900 per permit. We hear about all these changes every time they meet. There's changes. That's because the developer is listening to the community and making changes that are being asked for. Concessions are being made. This is the best compromise that we're going to get. And we can vote no for it, or we can vote yes. I'm voting yes.
Alderman Stamper, thank you for your comments. Alderman Hedberg.
Yes, I do have a question for Mr. Rogers, but I want to make a statement to Alderman Woodcock. Again, being the new kid on the block and not knowing 100% parliamentary procedures, I had no idea until Arlene Cunningham told you all where she was going to vote. I thought we had to vote once we got to the question. So to make it clear, as it was not clear to Alderman Woodcock, I'm not really sure what part of my statement that he thought there was a yes vote there. There is no yes vote. My vote was no when I walked in the door this evening before all of this conversation happened tonight. My question for Mr. Rogers is, I don't know how this is going to go this evening. In the event that this passes and the proposed plan passes this evening, the developer has stated that he is going to sell the front lots. What happens when those front lots sell? Can the new owner come in and have those lots revised from the single-family homes that they're currently zoned for to townhouses? They can.
Hold on, Fred, I'm sorry. Your voice is bad enough already, and I didn't help you. Go ahead.
They can apply for anything they want to, but back before, when they were talking about multifamily up there, it didn't get to first base.
Okay. All right, that's it.
So it would be restricted to be developed as it's currently laid out, which is the 3-acre lots, I believe.
I think there's 9, yeah.
Yeah, 9 3-acre lots.
3-acre lots. Mr. Mayor, if I could, I do have one question for the developer. Is the developer going to be able to stand up and speak this evening, or?
Without objection, should we suspend the rules to allow Lynn Ely to speak? That's who you're speaking of.
Make a motion to suspend the rules, allow this.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Ely, you can come up, and again, you're not obligated to answer any questions.
It's actually a simple question.
Go ahead.
I noticed, and I'm not really sure why I didn't notice it before, I've been there for 3.5 years now. So coming in and going out of the front and the rear of the association, including some signage at the pool areas, it states in the brick signage, Mansker Farms, a Vastland community. Do you plan, regardless which plan you make, to take that out? I don't think Mansker Farms residents wants any developers' names on that. It needs to just say Mansker Farms. I'm not sure why it's got a developer's name on it in the first place, and I'm not sure there's any rules that say that. Can we just have Mansker Farms on those signs? They do need to be changed. Vastland's name does not need to be anywhere on our property. Are you willing to do that?
It's important to understand that anything that's been decided at this meeting or any prior meetings is only a condition of the plan approval. But
Okay.
yes, with a condition of the plan approval, I would agree to do that.
Okay.
But it's important to understand all the prior conditions, everything that's been
Fair enough.
discussed, only come with the plan approval. So I have no control otherwise.
Fair enough. All right.
Alderman Hedberg, anything else?
That's it. No, thank you,
Okay.
Mayor.
Alderman Woodcock, hold on just a second, please. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman, and Chairman, if you could let the junior Alderman in Ward 3 know, I apologize. I didn't want to assume her vote. Second, Mr. Ely, is there anything that you could add or say to us to help us one way or the other?
I'm just I'm a little concerned, to put it lightly, that we've followed, I think I've said it every time I've spoke here. I know I've said it at a lot of the community meetings, that I wanted what's best for the community. I wanted what's best for the city. And I asked for input countless times to try to accomplish that. We had an advertised public hearing. We've had a lot of turnout. In fact, we've had more turnout than you see here tonight. I appreciate the 20 to 30 people that came tonight. I appreciate the 11 people that spoke against the project. But we've had greater turnouts at prior meetings, and we've had far greater turnouts at community meetings where people were in favor and opposed to the project. Having been surprised by a petition without knowing really what was said to gain the signatures on that position, and knowing how the position was facilitated, raises great concern, to say the least. To put it frankly, I've had conversations with the person that initiated the position, and he has been frank to say that his initiative is to make us go away and not develop the property. So I fully believe that there had to have been some persuasion to that effect to get signatures. Nevertheless, it's important to understand that they garnered 250 signatures of what I'm being told is 710 homes. If you average 2 people per home, which there's far greater than that, we're talking about less than 25% against this, that have signed something saying they're against this community. I just am surprised by it, to say the least. I'm concerned about what we're relying on as good data at this point, knowing that we're here for a public
Hey,
hearing.
Lynn, I'm going to stop you, okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
I think we
that's
answered the
my
question.
point. I think I made my
I have
point.
we answered
one
the
last
question. Go ahead.
question. Would you be interested, or would you consider, or would you be able to increase the minimum size?
Yeah, so that's a good point, because Arlene mentioned the 1,600, but I don't think it was ever really rolled into the conditions. So we had discussion about making sure that the minimum square footage was previously documented at 1,350, only because that's the smallest home we could find in the community today. We've since then had discussions to increase that to 1,600. So I wanted to make sure that is a condition of approval, without it being vague.
Does that need an amendment?
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. Tell us again what you're saying there. The minimum square footage of any of the houses that is included in this change of
Proposed,
plan
yeah.
would be 1,600 square feet?
1,600, rather than the 1,350 previously
Okay.
proposed.
We'll get to that in a minute. Any other questions for?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ely. Thank you, Alderman Woodcock. Alderman Sprouse, go ahead.
Thank you. Fred, I just have one question. You don't have to stand up, and you can just nod yes or no, because I've heard so many different plans and so many different proposals. The current zoning, the current plan, does it contain commercial, any sort of commercial within that? So if we do nothing, there are properties there that are zoned commercial within the current plan. You can just.
Correct.
Yes, so he's saying, Mr. Rogers, in a weak voice, is saying correct.
Not zoned, but planned.
But planned.
Commercial.
Okay. That's one of my concerns, is that we talk about the desire for Hendersonville to be a bedroom community, and I think that if you've looked at the arc of our community over the last 10 years, the last 20 years, the last 30 years, you know at one time we were very much a bedroom community, which is the most expensive place you can live, because primarily your residential property taxes are your main primary source of revenue. But we have moved away from the ideal of a bedroom community more to a standalone community with more jobs here, more shopping, more options. But if one of the objectives is to move to more of a bedroom community in this area and in this community, I would think that a step that could remove commercial from the plan would be a positive step towards that objective. And sometimes one of the things that we have to weigh in on the board is we have to decide what are the decisions that reach the objectives that are expressed to us. And I know that even with my time here, there are some times I just don't know how to do things. I don't know what the steps are. I don't know what the zoning is. I don't know. I'm talking to an engineer in Public Works. I went to a mechanic last week, and I tell him what's wrong with my car and how I'd like it to be fixed. But there are steps that he takes in fixing that. And so sometimes we just have to say, it looks like this isn't a step in the right direction, but it satisfies the objectives. And it removes commercial, it removes the number of units, it reduces stress on traffic and infrastructure, and it may not be something at face value we like, but it actually is a step in the right direction. When I talk with process, a lot of times people will call me early in the process, and in some cases with this last year, my first question would be, what do you know? And a lot of times they would know more than I did because they went to a community meeting. I tend to hold back because I know it's a moving target as it goes through the process. That what's going to come to us may not be what came to the Planning Commission. And I know what came to the Planning Commission may not be what originally went to the Planning Department. And there's so many steps, and so I try to remain non-committal until I know what the final plan is going to be. This is one that's changed a lot. I think in sometimes it changed because of positive interaction between the community and the developer. I think they found things they agreed on. I think some of it was a little more strained, but we still came to resolution. I know that staff have comments that we hope to be addressed. I also know, unfortunately, through timing, this was something that was introduced during a political campaign. And it's tough to keep up with things when things are going on with political campaigns. I'm not going to assign any sort of motive, anything like that. I just know that we're imperfect people and information can get passed imperfectly and things can change, particularly when it's something very complicated, something could be very controversial, and it's something that is fluid. So that's one of the reasons I always wait to see what the final product is going to be so we can actually judge what's on the paper. I am concerned about some about the petition. Petitions are not imperfect. Polls are not imperfect. Surveys are not imperfect. We know that from elections. We know that from folks who put out products that have been market tested, and all of a sudden no one buys them. I think that we need to look at things in the perspective. And when I talk about there being bias, I don't mean that there's intent. When I mean by bias, it's things that affect the way that we view the world, even if we don't know that they're there. And one of the things on this board that I've learned over time is that you have to weigh bias, that someone who opposes an idea is more likely to speak up than someone who supports an idea. And so that's something that we weigh. Someone who thinks that something was very clear-cut on first reading, that went the way they thought it was going to go, is going to be less likely to come on second reading. Someone whose garbage is picked up is not going to call me and want to talk about garbage collection services, but someone whose garbage isn't, they're going to want to call and talk to me about that. I know about petitions. I can tell you from example, one of the things that we have to do if we want to run for office is we have to get a petition signed by the people who live in our ward, registered voters in our ward. And what's very funny is that when I look at the petition of my opponent in the most recent election, there were people who signed it just because they signed petitions. They supported me and endorsed me in my re-election campaign in a very public way. But when you say, hey, what's the deal with this? They say, well, someone came to my door and they asked me to sign something and they seemed nice and I went ahead and signed it. The number 250 is not that big of a number, particularly if I have suspicions that there was some targeting going on, because when I have folks express to me that they saw their houses being skipped or neighbors seeing their houses being skipped. But 250 is not a very big number. We could go find every one of us could go find 250 people who did not vote for us, but most of us won by pretty substantial margins in election time. That's just kind of part of it. One of the things, and I have a lot of concern about how the petition was presented. When it only says one sentence at the top where things are not defined, it really bothers me. And I have, in the past, refused to participate with surveys on the telephone because the questions weren't phrased clearly, and I did not want my opinion misrepresented. And petitions, and there have been times I've said I'm not going to sign that petition because it's too open book. I don't want my signature, my name being used to promote something that's not defined in the petition. I even saw once a program where someone went to the National Mall in Washington and were successfully getting people to sign a petition to end women's suffrage. They told people there are women in this country who have suffrage and we need to take it away from them.
Alderman Strauss, let's pick it up a little bit, please.
Thank you, Mayor. But what we basically come down to,
Go ahead.
What we basically come down to is that I think that based upon the conversations that I've had with people who've reached out to me, and with me saying, what do you hear and what do you know? And I tend to play devil's advocate when people call me. Even if they call me with something that I think I'm supporting, I'm going to ask, well, what's the other side? And I want to balance that. And I have found throughout this process that as the development becomes more defined, as it improves based upon community input and input from our planning department, the people who call me who are familiar with this and see the process and know what the objectives are have supported that. Now, I'm not saying that the people who don't support that are wrong, or that you have wrong motives, or that we know something that you don't know, but I think that this is a plan that meets the objectives that have been expressed by a very substantial portion of your community. I can't say if it's a majority. I can't even say what the percentage is. But I think it's been significant, and I think their arguments have been valid. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alderman Strauss. Alderman Frost.
Well, thank you. I'm going to keep my remarks short, but I'm going to take a different approach on this. Listening to all the comments tonight, which have been good, I too believe that this is a good project for the city. It reduces density, some more green space. There was a speaker that made a comment tonight about there were smaller homes would attract retired people, and retired people are just old. And I guess I'm old. But we had one of those situations at Millstone. Those type houses attracted those folks. They didn't bring kids to put in school. 9 times out of 10, they're not getting up and going to work. Well, they're retired, so they're not going to contribute to the traffic in the peak hours of the day. And this is where I'm going to be a little different. This is a good project in my books. I think the planning department has done an exceptional job in watching this as they should to make sure it serves best for Masker Farms. Normally when I'm in doubt, and it doesn't involve my ward, I look to the alderman of the ward that's being affected. I think you're making a mistake. I think you're making a big mistake. For one simple reason. The new program, the new project that's being presented does a lot more things, even though you don't like some of the product. And there's nothing wrong with some of that product. If you'll go through Millstone, the cottages and the villas are being bought before they're being built. People are going to that lifestyle. I, for one, I'm tired of yard work. However, it's always been my intent to do, when the majority speaks, what they want. I feel you're making a mistake. It's not my ward. It's not my neighborhood. I think in years to come, be it 4, 5, 6 years, I truly believe you will probably wish this had come through. After what Mr. Rogers said, and correct me, Fred, if I'm wrong, the builder, if the previous plan is the one that stands, comes out on top, the building product can be any way he wants it. There's no regulation to it. If they want to build a vinyl village, they can. There you go. The new project's not going to allow that. But like I said, I try to do what the people ask. So I will go against my better judgment, but I'm doing what the people ask. It's not my award, it's Miss Cunningham's and Miss Hedberg's. And if you want it that bad, be ready for what may come. So that's all I have to say. I think a good opportunity is being passed up, but I'm going to go with what I said 2 weeks ago. It's been brought up twice. That enough people show up and can cite a difference of opinion, strong difference of opinion. I'll pay close attention to that. Thank you.
Alderman Frost, thank you. Fred, go, if you want to hop up here, please. And then Alderman Brown. Sorry.
I apologize for my voice. Got a frog in the throat there. Apologize for that. Should have said that earlier. But I need to take less than a minute just to make sure a few other facts are clear. That's my job, make sure the facts are clear. First of all, I checked the plan, and the base zone is SR1 Suburban Residential 1 PD. And so the base zone is SR1, and it will remain SR1. The plan changes. There are, and this is in the staff report, but just to make sure that the public's aware of this, we've talked primarily about the 48-foot wide lots, which, by the way, if this does pass this step, then their next step is to go back to the Planning Commission with a final plan. And the Planning Commission always expects them to submit actual elevations, four-sided elevations and floor plans of what they propose to build. And I think the Planning Commission will scrutinize this. We'll expect there to be a certain amount of brick. But that is 132 of the lots. There would also be 129 of the larger lots, the 60-foot lots, and 69 of the 85-foot wide lots. And based on the information we have, the middle-sized lot, that is for the same type of home that's being built in Millstone for about, they say the average sales price is $341,000 for those. And then for the larger lots, the 85-foot lots, there's really no set or firm data available on that, but their best estimate is just under $400,000 for those homes. But again, if this gets past this step, the developer will have to present more detailed information on what they would be building in those three sized lots. Also, quickly, the open space, there was some concern about maintenance of the open space. The plan that's shown shows that to be left natural. This is not an area that would have to be mowed, which would obviously cost to have that done. I'm not saying there couldn't be some small areas, but the plan shows it to be basically left natural. We would probably expect them to go in there and clean up any bad spots. Maybe there's some construction debris in certain parts. We would expect them to clean that out and put it in a position for the HOA to be able to maintain it very easily. And I believe that covers everything.
Fred, the agreement to have 1,600 square foot minimum houses, does that need to be a note, or where does that go for us to?
I think it would be best for there to be an amendment.
Okay.
to include that, but we certainly, we'll take note of that and make sure the plans they submit show at least 1,600 for those 48 lots.
Okay, where's the best place to add that with what we have? Is that going to be, I'm looking at the staff report and comment, should it be in there?
Well, it could, last time you amended the motion to add the drainage that the developer will be required to correct the existing drainage problems. It could be right at that same spot, just an extra sentence.
Page 11's, okay. Okay. Peg, could you work on the wording for that, and we'll come back to you in just a minute? The minimum square footage being 1,600 square feet. Page 11 is where we probably need to add it.
I would, I can very quickly give you that. There would be a new section, section 3 would become section 4.
Okay.
And section 3 would state that the minimum heated area of the homes must be a minimum of 1,600 square feet.
What was the word you used? The minimum?
The minimum heated area.
Heated area, okay. Alderman Sprouse, Alderman Woodcock, second. We're going to go ahead and vote on this motion. I sense that this is going to pass, and then we'll get back into to Mr. Rogers, and then back into the queue. All in favor of accepting this amendment, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, please say no. Thank you. Any other questions for Fred? Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Peg.
I'll try to keep it brief.
Go ahead, Alderman Petrelli, sorry.
So if we stay with the original plan, and in my mind, the way I think about it is that this is what, a 20-year-old plan? So in my mind, we're reverting backwards. The way the plans stand now, will they meet our design guidelines with the houses?
They would not be obligated to do that. They would not be obligated to do that. Unless there's some covenants I'm not aware of that already apply to this land, but I don't think that's the case.
Okay, so they would be consistent with the aesthetic that it is now?
It's no guarantee. We would, I expect that to be the case. I expect that to be the case, but there's no guarantee.
Okay, and then what about infrastructural improvements? I know if we stay with the existing 20-year-old plan versus the new plan, there are infrastructural perks per se? No?
Well,
with the new, I guess what I'm asking is with this revised plan, you offered a $500,000 turning lane, correct? So with the 20-year-old plan, there are no infrastructural incentives. And the fees drop back down to the original 20-year-old fees. Okay, so sorry.
Let me speak to that.
Sure.
And I recall what I said earlier. Let me make sure that's clear. There's with the new plan, we have assurances of the $300 fee being changed to $900, and we have the assurances of the entrances being repaired. If they go forward with the current plan, probably not. I don't want to just sit here and rule that out, because if they come back with the if this gets denied and they come back with the old plan, the city engineer is going to weigh in on this thing, and if he just says the entrances have to be improved, we may want to negotiate for that, or we may want to see if we can't get them to do that. So with the new plan, it's assured, but with the old plan, it's iffy at best.
Sure. I mean, I realize that residential construction in itself has not changed that much in the last 20 years. It's not rocket science. There still are changes. There are changes to the International Building Code, to building materials, all kinds of things. I mean, quite frankly, it scares me a little bit to be building off of a master plan that's 20 years old, that has not had a good look at it. My third question is, if we stay with the 20-year-old plan, is there any land allotted for a firehouse?
Right, yeah, the current plan shows a firehouse site on the west side of Center Point Road near the north end, It is across what I would call a small ravine. That's why I said earlier, it's pretty much considered an unbuildable lot. The fire department has looked at that. They've said, or at least the former fire chief has looked at that and has said they couldn't build there. So with the current plan, we would, at this point in time, the designated fire hall site is not usable, not to say we can't negotiate for another one.
Well, that's a great concern to me.
Yeah.
With the amount of people that we have living in Hendersonville now and the fact that we're adding X amount of homes regardless of how many homes, you know, I mean, that is a necessity. And just one final statement, just for clarification. I have received emails from 8 of you all regarding opposition to this revised plan. In regards to what Mr. Waters said in regards to Stratton Downs last week, to me, he's comparing apples to apples, and to me, it's comparing apples to oranges. I received over 40 emails from people opposed to the Stratton Downs project, and it's a much less dense area than your community with the people off of the Jones Road area. And literally, this room was filled with people. And I greatly appreciate all of you coming out tonight for sure. It's very important to me to hear what your opinions are. Again, I just want to reiterate, I'm very concerned that you all are willing to stay with the 20-year-old plan. It greatly concerns me.
Thank you, Alderman Petrelli. Alderman Campbell, you were in line.
I just had a quick question.
Okay, hold on here.
Come on.
Go ahead.
It was brought up about the green space property taxes. How do we charge property taxes on green space inside planned unit developments? Fred, if you know the answer to that. I mean, it's just a natural piece of land that's not being developed. It's just sitting there sort of useless. So how do we do that?
Do you want,
I'm not able to.
That's what I was curious if you
we're
would have.
going to ask our attorney to answer that.
Yes, sir.
It is assessed by the county tax assessor, just like all other property.
Okay, but would it be considered, is it a certain?
We have a lot of green space, and it's all assessed. Occasionally, it's sold by the delinquent tax committee. We had that happen at one of our local developments. But there is a property tax assessed to all
Okay.
green space. It's privately owned, so it's not
Okay.
public.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Alderman Brown. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to call a question.
Alderman Stamper, you're in line and have been for a little while. Would you want to speak on this?
It's an amendment to, one of the junior alderman for Ward 3 mentioned the
Alderman Brown, we'll
signage,
come back to you.
and the developer indicated they'd be willing to strike the word Vaseline throughout the community off the signage, so I was going to just put that in, along with all these other amendments that we've made through first reading and tonight.
You got a good spot to put that?
The new section, we'll move section 4 to section 5 and make it section 4.
Okay.
To strike the word Vaseline from all signage throughout the Mansker Farms
All signage?
community.
Second from Alderman Brown. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Alderman Stamper, anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you so much. Alderman Brown.
Call a question.
Okay. Yeah, without objection. Okay, we're gonna have a roll call on this. All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, please vote no. Okay, go ahead, please. This is for the vote.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell. Cunningham.
No.
Frost,
No.
Hedberg,
No.
Gilly,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Abstain.
Skidmore.
No.
Sprouse. Stamper. Waters.
No.
Woodcock. Clary.
Aye. Alderman Petrelli, would you like to change your vote? I'll take that as a no. Thank you. Go ahead, Kay. The motion passes 7 votes for, 5 against, and 1 abstention. Thank you. Next on the agenda, item B under ordinances resolutions. This is second reading of ordinance 2016-31, and ordinance amending fiscal year 2017 budget, which was ordinance 2016-10. This is appropriating the amount of $50,000 for changes in electric services for athletic fields, lighting the parks. Alderman Stamper, do you have a motion? Approve.
Second.
We have a second. Alderman Stamper, would you like to speak on this?
I think that the city attorney spoke last time addressing the issues why this is financially in the favor of the city.
Okay.
So I support this. I don't know. I mean, it's otherwise we're going to be stuck possibly paying over $100,000 on the way it's lighted. Brandon could speak further on it if need to.
Alderman Stamper, thank you. Alderman Brown? Did you mean to have your light on?
No, sir.
Okay. It may have been held over. We have nobody else wishing to speak on this. All those in favor of accepting second reading of ordinance 2016-31, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. That passes unanimously. Item C, second reading of ordinance 2016-33, an ordinance amending fiscal year 2017 budget, which is ordinance 2016-10, and appropriating the amount of $21,000 for Lake Haven subdivision improvements. Alderman Campbell, would you like to make that motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Alderman Campbell. Do we have a second? There we go. Alderman Campbell, would you like to speak on this?
This is a property that's along Cages Road at Saunders Ferry Road. It's to do some curb improvements there along the side of Cages Road, and also replace the drainage pipe under Saunders Ferry Road at that lower point below the lighthouse there, if you're not familiar with where it's at, and also do some drainage ditch improvements to the back side of the property, just to let you know where we're at.
Thank you, Alderman Campbell. Nobody else is asking to speak. All those in favor of accepting second reading of ordinance 2016-33, please signify by saying aye. Aye. If you're opposed, say no. Thank you. Item D, second reading of ordinance 2016-34, an ordinance amending budget ordinance 2016-10 by accepting and appropriating a Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security Tennessee Highway Safety Office grant in the amount of $20,000. Alderman Frost, is that a motion? Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Alderman Frost, would you wish to speak on this?
No.
Do we have anybody who would like to speak on this? All those in favor of accepting second reading of ordinance 2016-34, please say aye. Aye. If you're opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Second reading of ordinance 2016-35, an ordinance amending budget ordinance 2016-10 by accepting and appropriating Federal Bureau of Justice Assistance grant in the amount of $15,000. Alderman Frost, would you like to make that motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
No.
Is there, Alderman Brown, would you wish to speak on this?
I do. Alderman Frost is a sponsor of that. Would you explain what that is, please?
Put my glasses on.
Alderman Frost.
Yeah, it was a grant that was granted to the police department to buy equipment. You're welcome.
There being nobody else wishing to speak on this item, we will take a vote now. All those in favor of accepting second reading of ordinance 2016-35, please signify by saying aye. Aye. If you're opposed, please signify by saying no. Thank you. That passes unanimously. I notice there are two items below here for information. They will be on our next agenda. Real quickly, I want to let you all know this, and please feel free to email me with your thoughts on this. We are scheduled for a meeting on February 14th. I just want to let you know that as a point of information. What else? Hold on. What else can I say?
That's all you can say.
That's all I can say. That's all I can say. Alderman Frost, I believe you're about to make a motion.
I have a request.
What is your request?
Would you please keep the agenda live, because I don't want my wife ticked off at me because I didn't take her out today.
I second that.
Oh, we could just suspend the meeting. You don't want his wife ticked off at you?
I second
Can we take a vote on that?
Absolutely.
I hear Alderman Frost, you making a motion that we reschedule that meeting?
That's up to this body.
Make the motion, please. We,
Make a motion. Start at 5 o'clock.
I'll make the motion because I want to go out to eat.
what's your motion? To reschedule?
Do we need to meet, our charter say we have to meet
No.
once
No.
a month?
You can skip that meeting if this board chooses to.
Or reschedule.
Or reschedule, either
I
one.
make a motion that that meeting, that the agenda items go on to the next meeting.
February 26th,
26th.
28th,
28th.
February 28th.
Is there a second? Okay. All those in favor of,
I'd like to speak to that.
we have one person who wishes to speak on this
Oh, come on.
so far.
It's not an
Al-
all come on fun thing. okay?
Alderman Brown.
This is actually pretty serious.
Good.
We've got some issues in our safety committee that will need to be addressed, and we meet that night.
Are you making a motion that we should reschedule that meeting?
They can still meet.
Now, I'm just saying I'm fine with rescheduling the 14th Boma meeting, but
Okay.
the safety committee will meet. What are you doing, Sprouts? You got issues.
Go ahead.
We will have to meet either around that week or sometime that week, so.
I tell you what, I will undo my motion and just forget it, leave it alone. I don't want to complicate matters.
I don't think we can wait till March.
Just leave it alone, don't worry about it, we'll meet.
Do we not have a meeting on the 31st?
We have a work session on the 31st where no votes will be, no action will be taken, I should say. We've withdrawn the motion. Does anybody else have a motion concerning that meeting on the 14th? Alderman Stamper?
Good to meet on, maybe on Thursday, the 16th. Would that be okay? I've got a honey too I need to take.
We can't
care
meet on the 16th.
of. Cannot?
We cannot meet on the 16th.
All right. Never mind. Pass.
As the mayor, I have the opportunity to make some decisions regarding this.
Okay.
Keep an eye on your email. Alderman Sprouse?
Let me make one request. First is, last time we rescheduled a meeting we had a couple of members who ran into issues with not being able to be here. So my preference would be either we meet on the allotted night or we don't meet, so we don't have to worry about someone having confusion. Also, I will automatically announce if we do not meet on the 14th, I am canceling the general committee meeting for the same night.
Oh, I don't want you to do that because we just took two
Alderman
items off
Hedberg.
of that.
Want to
Sorry.
reschedule public safety?
If I have to go to the restroom, could you
Alderman,
guys decide that?
Yeah, we will.
Just let me know.
Do we have a motion? Alderman Frost, would you like to make a motion?
What did we decide to do?
We haven't.
We're going to meet.
Right now, we're meeting the 14th unless...
That's fine, let's just meet on the 14th, public safety can do their thing, general can do their thing, and we'll stay in sync, and I move we adjourn.
Alderman Frost makes a motion, we adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Need a second? Everybody does it.
Oh, you turned.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
we can see what